Welcome to Dodgers Dawgs. As part of the Dodgers Daily Network, Casey Porter here, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. Teoscar Hernandez, he is big on the forefront of everybody's minds, as Andrew Friedman came out the other day. Didn't use names, but I think we all know when he described the type of outfielder the Dodgers are still looking to acquire, who he was talking about. We're going to get all into him. Also, some prospect talk. I want to hear your questions as well. I want to hear your thoughts. What's going on? We already have a great lobby. Again, there's an echo. Okay, audio is looping. Not exactly sure why that is happening. Let's see. Let me kill all of this then. And then is the audio still looping, guys? And let me know if the audio is fine right now. I don't know why it would be doing that. If somebody could leave me an echo. Okay, well, I don't know exactly what that would be. I don't hear it in my ear. And we definitely need to get that fixed. So, had two browsers open, audio fine on my, okay, yeah, so I think it's because somebody had two browsers. Okay, good. That had me blown up because I couldn't figure out what was wrong on my end, because everything was good. Okay, so great. Hey, we have a great lobby. We already have a great crowd showing up, so let's get this going, and let's start talking. Okay, Teoscar Hernandez, he is topic number one. I am going to give my thoughts on him. I have an entire list of pros and cons. I think you guys know that there's two ways that I want the prospects to be used. Dodgers Daily, what we do here is prospect talk. Matter of fact, just got off the phone with Gus Varlin. Going to release my interview with him coming up this week, talking to Taylor Young tomorrow, talking about to Dave Anderson about all the Loons team this week, and then going to talk to Michael Grove, and we're going to move forward from there. So Emmett Sheehan is also on deck, and so is Ricky Vanasco. So you know that Dodgers Daily is really heavily slanted towards the prospects, and so from that perspective, I tend to look at it from the prospects' perspective. So there's two ways to maximize the prospects as far as the value for the Dodgers, and then also to maximize giving them their best chance to make a living for their family and make the most amount of money and have the best kind of career. One is you do like you did James Outman and Miguel Vargas, Bobby Miller, Ryan Pepio last year, and you put them in your lineup and you use them on the field. That's obviously option number one. Number two is if you don't have a position for them, send them off to go get the type of players that you want in return, like we've seen with the Tyler Glasnow and Manny Margot trades. So those are your two ways. I'm good either way. The only way that I'm not good is if you keep all these guys and then also don't have a role for them and then don't really even give them a chance to even have a major league career till they're 27 or 28. Okay, I say that on every show, I know, but I wanted to preface that with where I'm coming at from Teoscar Hernandez and my thoughts when we get to my thoughts on them here in a minute. But I want to get to some of your thoughts here first. Again, I'm going to be by myself. Sunday nights sometimes are difficult, so I thank everybody. We already have just a wonderful lobby that has shown up. Okay, TN says Teoscar is the move we need and don't need at the same time. That, my friends, is exactly spot on. We are starting the night off on fire. And we're going to find with the pros and cons, it's going to make sense in a lot of ways, and then in other ways, it's not going to make sense at all. This is simply going to come down to personal preference. There is no right or wrong. There is no guaranteed yes. This is, it's not like when the Dodgers signed Mookie Betts. It's not like when they signed, Freddie Freeman. It's not like when they got Ohtani and Yamamoto. It's not like any of that. There is going to be a ton of gray area. There's going to be a ton of debate. There's going to be a ton of just differing in opinions on what the Dodgers should do for Teoscar Hernandez, because it's not a guarantee that it's going to actually be the perfect move for this Dodgers team. So let's talk about it. Leave your thoughts in the chat, as we always are. I say that the Dodgers Daily, not the biggest chat, it has grown, but the best chat, the best, smartest chat out there in baseball, no doubt about it. So leave your thoughts on what you think, as always, as we always do here at Dodgers Daily. Make it respectable, and let's have a hell of a good time cussing and discussing and talking back and forth what we think about this Teoscar Hernandez deal. So I love this comment. Teoscar is the move we need, and also the move that we don't need at the same time. He is a power-hitting right-handed hitter, but with tons of swing and miss, averages slightly above average glove, but a great arm. I don't mind it. So when you look at his outs above average, he was tied last year at -1 with, believe it or not, Mookie Betts. So this is a guy that is right around an average defender, good arm. So I don't think the defensive aspect of it has any factor on this. I think that's totally neutral. I know some of the concerns that Dodgers fans have is you already have Max Muncy at third, who, quite frankly, isn't great defensively at third base. You don't know exactly what you're going to get out of Gavin Lux. He's never played consistently at the major league level. You're breaking in Mookie Betts at second base full-time for the first time ever. And then, I love Will Smith, but the Dodgers don't ever throw anybody out as far as base runners. So you're already looking at a defense that doesn't look great to begin with. Freddie Freeman's very good at first base. And so I understand people to say, well, we need to get a plus defender to throw out there. But I think James Outman is very good. And then if you look at Jason Hayward, he was one of the best defensive outfielders in the game of baseball last year. Point blank, end of discussion. Defensively, I should say. I think I said defensively. So from that perspective, I do think the Dodgers have room to put a left fielder out there that is not a plus defender. He's not necessarily a negative defender. He's going to be a guy that's just neutral, okay? Right field, wherever you put him, wherever you want your platoon to be. You know, I know a lot of people think, well, put him in right field because right field's where you need your home runs, you know, or and then make your platoon left field with Hayward and Margot. That's fine. Either way, whether it's Hayward, Margot, and right, and Hernandez and left, or whatever happens, it's the same home runs that you're hitting. So from that perspective, I think the defense is a total neutrality. We'll get into more of the pros and cons as we go. We have a wonderful lobby already set up here. Nando390 says, trade these prospects, make the team great now. No doubt about it, Nando. That is a win-win situation. When you signed Ohtani, I've been trying to preach this as much as I love Michael Busch. People ask me, can you put Michael Busch in left field? Not now that you signed Shohei Ohtani. This is not a club when you go and you spend $1 billion on two players that can throw experiments out there on the field. It's just not a club that you can do that with. At that point, guys like Michael Busch, Miguel Vargas, they need to be moved. Andy Pages needs to stay because whenever Jason Hayward's no longer on your roster, and then Manny Margot, whatever you figure out to do with him, Andy Pages, I think, becomes a factor as early as next year. Andy Pages is good. Plus, he didn't play any basically at all at the AAA level last year because he got hurt in his very first game at Oklahoma City. So if you sit Andy Pages at AAA Oklahoma City this year, bring him up for a late call-up in September, I think that's a perfect path for Andy Pages. Then this time next year, he has a chance to become your starting right fielder, or a Ryan Ward, or, of course, Drew Avens. This would be his fourth year in AAA Oklahoma City. They need to figure out a rule for a guy like that to where he can become a free agent faster. You know, when you're on I'm not upset with the Dodgers in any way from that scenario because there's just too much talent. I just think from a player's perspective, they need to figure out the Drew Avens situation a little bit better and allow him to become a free agent before he goes into his fourth year in AAA. But that's a whole nother rant. That's not what we're going to talk about tonight. So we're talking about Teoscar Hernandez, random hero. Nando, wonderful comment, Tien. Hey, we started off the night with a bang with awesome comments. Random always has unbelievably great comments. This Teoscar situation reminds me of another former Mariner we signed to a deal that we're arguably regretting. CT3 and T.O. performed very similar at age 30, and while T.O. showed more power. Yes, and Chris Taylor has been a very valuable member of the Dodgers organization, and even if his numbers don't look good, I think the fact that he gives you the roster flexibility with his versatility, I think he's okay. So I don't think you compare Chris Taylor versus other, say, starting left fielders. I don't think you compare Chris Taylor to starting shortstops or third basemen or right fielders. I think you have to compare Chris Taylor and what he can bring to your club to all the other guys that can play 7 positions on the field. So who else is there out there that would be a better player than Chris Taylor that can play 7 different positions? That would be my question as far as the value of Chris Taylor. Honestly, I'm not saying there isn't somebody that isn't better out there. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I don't know. Is there a major leaguer out there that can play 7 different positions, doesn't need to be an everyday starter, that can come up clutch like Chris Taylor has done, that is better than Chris Taylor? If there is that guy out there, I'm all for it. Let's make our team as good as we possibly can. So, yeah, that's a great comment from Random, no doubt about it. T.O., I believe, is 31 years old? Let me check that just to make sure. He's going into his year. Yeah, he is 31 and 2 months. So T.O. is going to be 31 years old. He's already 31 years old. Here's another deal about him. He has 6 years of service time. Now, I know in 16 and 17, he made his debut in 16, but in 16 and 17, he didn't get the 172 days to have a qualifying year. And so this is going to be year 7 for him. So here's one of the cons. We'll get into him here in a minute. He's going to want a 4-year contract. Even if that's a lower, I think in some ways it makes sense for the Dodgers to go. If they're going to go 3, it makes sense to go 4 and lower the AAV, because I think that 4th year is going to be super valuable for Teoscar. I think he's going to want that, because if he gets that 4-year contract, then that gives him the ability to get to his 10-year pension, which is somewhere around $8,000 a month for the rest of your life. So Teoscar is wanting to get to that 10-year pension. So I think you're going to hear his camp say he wants 4 years, which is why if he got 3 guaranteed by the Dodgers, then you go sign on for league minimum somewhere for that 4th year, or you sign that 4-year contract now. So I think you're going to hear that come out of him. I think that's why you're hearing the extended period of time that he wants to be signed for on his contract, because he is getting, whenever you get this close, kind of like I'm 4 years away from retirement, you start thinking that way. Like, man, if I can just figure out a way to be on a roster for 4 more years, I get to make $7,500 a year on pension for doing nothing. So I think that also is going to be a factor as well for him. So, yeah, Nando, I totally agree. Trade the prospects, bring in the best team that you have, let the prospects go play somewhere else, have a clear path to Major League time. Dodgers win a World Series. It does not get any better than that. No doubt about that. Random, most of the offensive stats declined from last year, along with a huge increase in strikeouts. That's one of the cons. Strikes out a lot, doesn't match that with walks. One of the things that you can say about Max Muncy, yes, he strikes out a lot, but combined with that, he gets on base a lot because he walks a lot as well. Teoscar would not be bringing you the walks combined with the strikeouts. That's definitely 100% one of the absolute cons to bringing in Teoscar Hernandez. And when you look at his WAR from last year, it was 1.8. So he was below average. He was, in terms of his WAR, and his WRC plus was 130. So his was 105. So his WRC plus was somewhere around average. His WAR was close to average. So even though, here's the thing about him. Even though last year he hit 258, he had a strikeout percentage of 31.1% and a walk percentage of 5.6. So he struck out, his strikeout percentage was 25% higher than his walk percentage. That's obviously not ideal. Even having said that, and if you believe in advanced analytics, his WRC plus and his WAR would say he was still, even at that, an average Major League Baseball player, right? So the strikeout to walk ratio obviously is a con. Here's the pro to that. He kills left-handed pitchers, right? Which is something the Dodgers desperately need. And as a matter of fact, that would be the exact reason why they're bringing him to the Dodgers, is because they need a right-handed hitter in the outfield that can hit left-handers and also can hit for power. That's why you'd be bringing Teoscar Hernandez in. And let me throw this at you. Not saying this would happen, but I think this is definitely a possibility. I think this is definitely a pro. Why do you think Jason Hayward had such a great year last year? Obviously, yes, the instruction is great, But the instruction is great at every professional level. In every professional organization, you're going to get elite instruction. So in my opinion, Jason Hayward's ascension last year, yes, the instruction was great, but it was because the Dodgers were able to put him in advantageous positions. Because the Dodgers have so much depth. They're going to have Chris Taylor. You have guys that can play both infield and outfield. Teoscar Hernandez can be used very similarly to how Jason Hayward was used last year, and the Dodgers can optimize his matchups. And if you take a guy that hits 25-plus home runs, for instance, Teoscar Hernandez, he hit, even last year, he had 26 home runs. He has not hit below 25 home runs since 2012. Since 2020 doesn't count. He has not hit below 25 home runs since 2018. 2018, he hit 22. Okay, so this is a guy that is going to hit home runs for you. And then if you put him in advantageous matchups, like you did Jason Hayward, he might not hit as many home runs, but his home run percentages go up. And I would bet to say if he gets put in advantageous positions and matchups, I would venture to say that his strikeout rate would go down and his walk rate would go up. So I think the depth the Dodgers have to create advantageous playing opportunities for Teoscar Hernandez would make him a better, more consistent offensive player than he already has been. One that has been, I would say, very, very explosive, inconsistent at times. I think that's fair to say about Teoscar Hernandez. So there are some of my initial thoughts on him. So random, we would need to make room for him anyways. Yes, that is correct. So the 40-man is full. So to make room for him, you would either have to DFA somebody or make a trade. So I think simultaneously the Dodgers they're looking at a million different situations. But if you're looking at getting Teoscar, you're also looking at trading for pitching. And I think the Dodgers are going to try to go as big as they can at this point. I've said innings eater. I would like for the Dodgers to take those 200-300 innings that they have at the back end, give them to Emmett Sheehan, Kyle Hurt, and those guys. But then again, there's pros and cons to that, because if you do that, let's say you go get Teoscar Hernandez, you have to DFA somebody at the back end, and then you don't trade anybody, right? At that point, you have Nick Frasso, Landon Knack, Kyle Hurt, Michael Grove, Gavin Stone. You don't really have roles defined for those guys. That's a con for me. So I think if you go get a Teoscar Hernandez, I think then instead of DFAing a guy and blocking 4 or 5 of your pitching prospects, it makes more sense to trade some of those guys to go get a pitcher at the back end and go about that way to open up your 40-man roster spots. Hey, maybe you can trade a couple of those guys that are on your 40-man for one pitcher. Maybe you can trade 3 guys on your 40-man for one pitcher if he's the right guy. Now you've opened up 2 roster spots. Now you're really cooking. So I do think there's going to be a corresponding move, and that would have to be via trade, because I don't think there's anybody left on the Dodgers 40-man that, in particular, the Dodgers would be very excited about DFAing. I just don't think there's anybody. Of course, we saw with Brian Hudson, just because you DFA a guy doesn't mean you can't trade him. They definitely can do that. And anybody other than Ricky Vanasco that you would DFA at this point is going to be somebody who has shown that they can get major league outs. And Ricky Vanasco, I can tell you, I've talked about him. I don't want to get off on that right now because we're talking Teoscar Hernandez. But I can tell you the Dodgers are super excited about him. So, yes, exactly, Random. There is going to have to be a corresponding move if you bring Teoscar Hernandez in. Great thoughts, Random. How are you doing this evening? So thankful that you joined. Wonderful thoughts. And, yeah, we got the echo fixed. I think it was people having multiple browsers open. Oscar, good evening, Oscar. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so 6-man rotation. Yeah, that's a great idea, too. Let me get back up to the top. I think our moderator Mike is here. Good evening, Mike. Thank you so much for joining. If Mike's going to join me again this week, and we're going to have another hot take, and we are going to hash out a video or two, and we're going to talk maybe some Munetaka Murakami, a young infielder that hits bombs, and so I'm excited about that. So, Mike, thank you for joining and moderating tonight. He does such a wonderful job. Okay, so Scott, audio fine on my end. That's good. Okay, everybody's audio is good. We are good to go. Okay, let's get to some more comments here. All right, here we go. Jason Soretti, audio good here. Cobra Commander sounds fine. Yeah, we're getting past the Cobra Commander says no on Teoscar. Okay, so with that no on Teoscar, let's go over the cons. Lots of strikeouts, not matched by the walks, no doubt about it. You can't get away from that. He's going to want a multi-year deal. He's going to push for 4 years, again, because he's going to want to get to that 10 years of service time to get to his pension. So he's going to want a multi-year deal. So you're taking, a chance on a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, who is already 31 years old. You already have contracts that are extended. You already have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Ohtani, who are going to go well into their 30s. Do you want to sign another guy until he's 35? That is definitely a con in my. If it was a 1 year situation where he would sign a 1 year deal, I think it'd be a no-brainer. But he's going to want at least 3, probably 4 to get to his pension. So I think that's a con. Okay, and again, he adds to the boom and bust nature of this Dodgers offense. How many times, and I promise, I won't go on a rant tonight about it. How many times have I said, though, matter of fact, when I went on Clint's show, Clint Pasillas, if you haven't checked out his show, which I'm sure you have because he's very popular, he does such a wonderful job. Clint Pasillas, again, over there at Real FRG. Check him out, definitely. Went on his show last week, and he asked me, what one thing would you like to see improve with the Dodgers this year? My first, it was like natural. I didn't even know the question was coming. Hey, I would like to see the Dodgers be a little bit more dynamic, be a little less boom and bust. So when you have your down periods, in case one of those down periods is in a playoff series, you have enough dynamic elements to your offense to where you can still score 4, 5, or 6 runs without hitting home runs. Okay, so Teoscar Hernandez, the biggest con, in my opinion, the biggest con to picking him up is that he just adds to that boom or bust element that the Dodgers are living and dying by. So if you're going to be even more boom or bust, what happens if you go through a 4 or 5 game stretch that you're not hitting home runs and you don't have an offense dynamic enough to put the ball in play, to walk and get on base and put pressure on defense and score 1 run 3 or 4 different times throughout a game in an inning? He's adding to not being able to do that, adding to the boom or bust element to your offense. And to me, that is a huge con. That's a con that I don't think you can get around. That's one I think the Dodgers need to consider very seriously. So those are some of the cons. We will also get into the pros, and then I will give my opinion on whether I like the deal or not. Okay, so let's get into some more comments. We already have a wonderful, wonderful lobby. Okay, so Nando390 says Stone, Cartaya, Bush, lower level prospect for Luzardo. I do not think that would get you Jesus Luzardo. I think you're going to have to give up Nick Frasso. I think you're going to have to, or Kyle Hurt, and then I think you're going to have to probably give up, probably Stone, Cartaya, Bush, and then a lower level prospect at that point would get Luzardo. I'm not great on those trade deals as far as who would want what, but there's no real reason for Miami to trade Luzardo. I think they would be in the position of leverage. So I think the first pitcher they would want back would be probably Nick Frasso or Kyle Hurt. I think they would ask for one or the other, and I know a lot of teams have inquired about Kyle Hurt, and the Dodgers do not want to get rid of him. Kyle Hurt has electric stuff. He is simply fantastic. And the thing about Kyle Hurt, too, he is on an uptick. I mean, he's trending up right now. This dude showed it at the major league level. So I guarantee you the first name that Miami's going to say as far as a pitcher is going to be Kyle Hurt, because I know Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, they are off the hook. No, forget it. You're not going to get one of those two. So I think you would probably have to give up Kyle Hurt or Nick Frasso to get a Luzardo. But that would be interesting. What would you do that? I mean, we'll have a show. This show right now is on Teoscar. I haven't really dove into all of that. When I first look at that, I would probably say yes to that, but I would want to look at the pros and cons a little bit more to give a more educated opinion on that. So CT3 just going to be a $13 million bench warmer. DC, the way this is going to happen, in my opinion, is that Chris Taylor will play on average 2.5 days out of 5. He'll play basically every other game, and it'll be in a different spot every year, every game. So like if you have a four outfielders, then Chris Taylor gives all 3 outfielders a break, say every other week. Then he's your fifth infielder, basically your fourth infielder because he doesn't play first base. Then he gives all those guys in the infield a break every other week or so. So basically when you throw it in the oven and let it bake, he's playing 5 games every other week. It's at a different position, and then he has your depth at all those positions. So from that perspective, I think that makes sense for the Dodgers because I don't think, again, maybe there is. If there is one out there, bring up some names and let's talk about them. But is there a better player out there in the major leagues that can provide you depth at 7 different positions that is better than Chris Taylor? That would be my response to that. But that is a great point, DC. $13 million for a bench warmer, $13 million for a utility guy that doesn't have an everyday role. That's a lot of money, no doubt about it. I hear what you're saying right there. Elishiba says, let's go Dodgers. Make a trade for Reed Detmer. Yeah, definitely left-handed pitching is something that the Dodgers need. I think the first thing that they're trying to, I think it is 2-part because there's going to have to be a corresponding move. If you go free agent, you're going to go free agency either for your pitcher or your outfielder. So if you go free agency for your pitcher, then your outfielder is going to become via a trade. That's going to be the corresponding move. If you go free agency with your outfielder, I think your corresponding move is trade for a pitcher because, you have to make a court. Now, the Dodgers, again, could DFA somebody on the bottom end. But, yes, it would be ideal to get a left-hander. Of course, the Dodgers then could just bring back Clayton Kershaw. Who knows when he will be available. But I think the Dodgers can wait for him because I think you have enough depth. You're going to be good enough to win 95 to 100 games with your eyes closed. You have enough depth to get to the point of the season that Walker Buehler and also Clayton Kershaw could be fully healthy and ready to go and ready to get after it for you. So I think bring Clayton Kershaw back is a great move for the Dodgers. So I think that lessens your need for a left-handed starter. And then here's the deal. I don't think Clayton Kershaw is going to start a playoff game. I think when you look at Tyler Glasnow, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Walker Buehler, Bobby Miller, those are going to be your 4 starters in the playoffs. Okay? And I don't think you need a 5th starter in the playoffs. You might not even need a 4th starter. So I think what Clayton Kershaw can do for you is be a starter in the regular season towards the end of the year, eat some innings that you need him to eat, and then I think he could be your left-hand reliever in the playoffs. I know a lot of fans think that we need another reliever. People don't trust Caleb Ferguson at this point. I think he's going to have a good year. His second year back, I think he's going to get comfortable and do a really nice job. Not sure about Alex Vesia, his roller coaster of emotions. We'll see. I think Yarbrough is what he is. He's another guy kind of like the Hayward deal. I think one of the advantages he has being in the Dodgers organization, I don't think he's a great pitcher or anything, but I think that the Dodgers have enough depth to where they can continue to put Yarbrough in advantageous matchups. And because of that, he's going to excel from that perspective. So I think going into the playoffs, Clayton Kershaw could be that left-handed reliever that you need to get through the middle innings with. That's a great role for him. So I think it just makes total sense to bring Kershaw back on every which different level. So I get to that long story short to say, I don't want the Dodgers to go get a pitcher just because he's right-handed or left-handed. I want them to go get what they think is the absolute best pitcher they possibly can get. Or not get a pitcher. That's fine too. But I would rather them just go get the best pitcher that they think is out there and go from that perspective. Hey, great comment, David. Thank you so much for joining. What a wonderful comment. What a wonderful lobby. Every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Dodgers, Dawgs. Usually joined by Coach, but Coach he's retired, of course, and then he's had an extended holiday, and so Coach will be back next week. I have that confirmed. He will be on the JOB here on Dodgers, Dawgs, and we will talk a lot of Dodgers baseball, so very, very excited about that. Blake Death 28 says, come on, man, we need Randy Arozarena. I have been screaming that from the mountain tops. Problem is, the Dodgers aren't in control of that. The Devil Rays have, they just traded for Ryan Pepio, Johnny DeLuca. They just traded away Luke Raley, who, by the way, communicated with him. And matter of fact, it was kind of funny. I messaged Luke and I said, hey, man, you guys are going to love Pep and Johnny. Congratulations on your great 2023. And then I got a message back that said, this is hilarious because by the time I saw this, I had already been traded. So Luke Raley traded to the Mariners. That was kind of funny. But the Rays are going to be pretty good. So they have no real reason to ship Randy Arozarena right now. So the Dodgers aren't in control of that. I think, I've said this many times, the Dodgers have the package that would make the Devil Rays go, man, we just can't turn that down. I think the Dodgers have that package available, and I think they have that package that they can, most importantly, they can absorb it. They can absorb the guys that they would be giving away. Although they would be total studs, you would look at the top prospects list and go, oh my God, we're giving away all of our top prospects. What in the hell are the Dodgers? Although it would look that way, still though, it's guys that you have depth at their positions that you can absorb. So I've been screaming that. I do think the Dodgers have a package they could put together that would make the Tampa Bay Devil Rays think that it was too good not to give up Randy Arozarena. I think that's last resort at this point. I think the Dodgers are scoping out all of their options. Teoscar Hernandez obviously is the most recent one, so we'll see how that goes. Super excited to see how that works out. It's also fun to get some news that had been kind of stale for the last couple of days, and we got some exciting news there. Andrew Friedman came on, and we knew who he was talking about. So, okay, Cobra Commander, good evening, Cobra. If you're going to acquire someone, get a contact guy. Okay, this is a great point, Cobra. My point on that, and I've said this many different times on Dodgers Dogs. First of all, go find an elite player, an all-star caliber player. Trade whoever you need to trade for to go get it. That would be the Randy Arozarena. If you can't get that type of elite guy, if you're just going to get an average player, of which if you look at Teoscar Hernandez, his WAR metrics, his WRC plus metrics would say that he is an average major leaguer. At that point, you're looking for style of play, okay? The style of play that fits what you need. I am 100% with you, Cobra. I want the Dodgers at that point to go get the Tommy Pham type of player where it's going to be more dynamic. It's going to get on base more often, going to be more of a pest to the defense, going to generate maybe a run or two at the bottom of your lineup. I think that's the style the Dodgers should go after. There's obviously a debate on that. The Dodgers feel like the fit they need is a guy that can hit left-handers and hit bombs. So at this point, it's more about the fit, the style of play that the Dodgers need if you don't get the all-star player. Cobra, you and I are 100% aligned on that. But I will say, I can understand the perspective of the Dodgers of saying the fit for them is a power-latent, left-handed hitting offensive killer. I can understand why they think like that. I don't personally agree with that, but I can totally understand why that's their fit at this moment. So, hey, great comment, Cobra. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining here. Charlie Dodger, sign Hernandez, then move Bush, Vargas, or whatever it takes to get Luzardo. Awesome. I love it. Charlie Dodger, you are spot on right there, man. I love that. Again, I'm going to say it again. This Dodger, and just listen to the comments we've already had, man. This is good stuff. I mean, the comments we have going on right now, these are big time, man. I mean, you talk about balanced, objective, not emotional, all of the above, man. These comments are absolutely big time. Charlie, as always, I just could not agree with you more. And again, give these prospects the runway they need somewhere else. Get the player you want. Go win a World Series. Get that first World Series under your belt. Once you get that first World Series, man, no telling how many you can win from that perspective. And don't forget, next year, you're going to get Roki Sasaki, most likely. From everything I've heard, Roki Sasaki is going to be a full court press from the Dodgers. And with that full court press, I think it would be a massive upset if he didn't become a Dodger. So I think you're going to end up with Roki Sasaki, and Shohei Ohtani next year in your rotation. I think another guy you might think about moving is Tony Gonsolin. I think there's a lot of clubs out there that would like to take a guy like that has been as dominant at times as he has been at the major league level. I think moving him also is an option, because looking at your rotation next year, and you might sign Clayton Kershaw to a 2-year contract. I know Doug McCain, when he came on, he actually advocated for that 2-year contract, so there's not as much pressure to get back this year, and you don't feel like you have to force Clayton Kershaw into a lineup earlier than he's capable of, because you feel like you need to get your value out of him. So that 2-year contract would alleviate that. So there are people out there that think the Dodgers not only are going to re-sign, and people that are connected, like Doug McCain, think the Dodgers not only going to sign Kershaw, but also to a 2-year contract. So next year, you're going to have Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, and then and then you're going to add Dustin May. You're going to add Tony Gonsolin, Roki Sasaki. That's 8 guys right there. So somebody's got to move from there. So, and then if you added a Jesus Luzardo, that's why right there, what I just went through. That's why you can give up a Nick Frasso. That's why you can give up some pitching depth, guys that are awesome, like Ryan Pepio. I mean, he had an awesome end to last year. I love Ryan Pepio. Okay, that's why you can afford, although you look at it and go, man, we just gave away our number 2. That's why you can afford it, because just look at the names I gave you next year. Take your pick, right? I mean, that's an awesome lineup, okay? And then maybe some of those guys don't even start. They end up being in the bullpen. Then that lessens you need to go get guys in the bullpen. So great comments here. Mr. /X, thank you so much for joining every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Third base and shortstop are our shortcomings. We'll see with Gavin Lux. Gavin Lux is another guy that if he plays offense the way that he is capable, is that dynamic guy that can be that spark plug at the bottom of your lineup. And if everything goes as well as he's capable of, if he plays offense to his capabilities, he could be the spark plug at the top of your lineup. The guy that gets on base, that steals bases, that hits doubles, that hits you 15 to 20 home runs, but also has good bat-to-ball skills and steals bases. The guy that I like. Now, defensively, we'll see. I think he's going to be better defensively than Dodgers fans are thinking right now at this point. Obviously, nobody can guarantee you that. Just like I told D-Mac about Bobby Miller going into the playoffs next year, nobody can guarantee how he's going to handle it emotionally or physically, because he's never been in that situation. Gavin Lux has never been the starting shortstop for the Los Angeles Dodgers at the major league level, and the job just be his, and his to win or lose over 162. He was in that position last year, but then hurt his leg. So I can't guarantee you what's going to happen with Gavin Lux. Nobody can. You have Miguel Rojas as backup, and if you don't make a big trade right now, you have depth to go get a shortstop as well. So yes, I think Max Muncy defensively at third base, and quite possibly there is a chance that Gavin Lux then also could be an issue at shortstop defensively as well. But then you have Miggy Rojas, who is a great defensive shortstop. Then also you could go get Willy Adames at the trade deadline if you don't make another trade move in the offseason. So yes, they are shortcomings, but at least from the shortstop perspective, that will get fixed one way or the other. Either Gavin Lux will be the dude, and he's good, which is that's what the Dodgers need, because it gives you a controllable, dynamic shortstop for years to come, or you go get a guy that fixes it for you. So the shortstop, yes, it may end up being a shortcoming, but it's going to be a short-term shortcoming, because the Dodgers will fix that position. Again, you'll pay $1 billion for 2 players and not fix your shortcomings. We've already seen the Dodgers not stop this offseason because they know they can't stop short. You can't have shortcomings when you have a Shohei Ohtani that deferred as much money as he did. So I think Max Muncy, yes, if he's just okay defensively, the home runs he gives you, hey, he's a boomer bust guy. He is what he is. You got to like the fact that he hits home runs, drives in runs, and his WRC plus numbers look good. His slug numbers look good. He is what he is, but the shortstop deal, one way or the other, will get solved. Okay, TN at Charlie Dodger, would you rather use these prospects for Randy instead of Luzardo? Great question. And again, if you go get that depends. If you go get Teoscar, then it would be Luzardo, because at that point, if the Dodgers go get Teoscar, it's not because they didn't want Randy Arozarena. It's because Tampa Bay just said, we're not dealing him. We've got too much team control left with them. We're going to be good. We can't deal him. And here's the deal. I think he might become available. There is a chance that he would become available at the trade deadline, but that chance would be risky, because what you'd be risking is Tampa Bay having a terrible year, being so far terrible that they're not even close to the wild card, and I don't see that happening. So if you get a Teoscar, then it goes to Luzardo, and if you get a Teoscar, it's because Tampa Bay just didn't want to trade Randy. So yeah, if everything went perfect and I said, okay, I can just snap my fingers and the way that everything goes the way I want it to go for the Dodgers, I would definitely get Randy Arozarena with my trade prospects, go on the free agency market to get a fifth starter, or just leave the innings up. Actually, I wouldn't even do that. I mean, Luzardo would be great because he's left-handed. That he would be great. But beyond just getting a fit, like a left-hander or something like that, I'd give it up to the rookies at that point. So, yeah, that's a great point. Again, just wonderful comments to this point. We have just a tremendous chat tonight. Chris Taylor is the perfect bench player. He can get 400 bats just by being a guy who gives people rest. That's my point. And, again, I'm going to say don't compare Chris Taylor to the starting left fielders in the league. Don't compare him to the starting shortstop. Compare him to all the other guys that can play 7 positions. And who is better of all the guys that can do that? Kiki Hernandez is that type of guy. So I think you're comparing Chris Taylor to those kinds of guys. Is Chris Taylor better than Kike Hernandez? Is he better than the other guys that can provide depth for you? If Randy is available, this is from Charlie Dodger, then yeah, get him. I doubt they'll trade him. I'm with you there. Mike, our moderator, Kike Hernandez is more consistent than Chris Taylor. See, there you go. I have no problem with that. This is wonderful talk. I mean, this is big time stuff right here. So, like at Dodgers Daily, we don't say, oh, he's garbage, he's trash. We don't. It's, hey, here is a level-headed, okay, well, here's another guy. Like I say, well, who's better than Chris Taylor that can be depth? Well, Mike thinks that Kike Hernandez could be more consistent in that depth role as well. So here's the problem. How do you add Kike Hernandez and subtract Chris Taylor? How do you do that? Nobody's going to trade for Chris Taylor because nobody is going to want a $13 million backup piece. They're going to want Chris Taylor to be a starter, and I don't think Chris Taylor has value as a starter because I don't think his numbers are good. So how do you get Chris Taylor how do you get any value out of Chris Taylor? You're not going to DFA Chris Taylor. So how do you get Kike Hernandez on this roster instead of Chris Taylor? That would be my question. How would the Dodgers get that done? I don't think there is a path to do that with, which is why I think Chris Taylor has to be I think maybe if neither guy were signed and you were choosing based on, hey, choose this guy or that guy because you don't have either one of them on your 40-man roster yet, I think at that point, the Dodgers might choose Kike Hernandez instead of Chris Taylor. But I just think it's too complicated, and the slim margins maybe that Kike would give you back over Chris Taylor, I don't think are worth all of the path you would have to get to remove Chris Taylor off of the 40-man. Now, yeah, if you could find a trade partner, but I'm not sure exactly that you could. It would be interesting to see who would be interested in the Chris Taylor market. Wonderful lobby tonight. We got an IHTD Muller. Okay, thank you so much for joining every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Do you see any suitors for Vargas or Bush? Oh, yeah, absolutely. There is a lot of teams that would like Miguel Vargas or Michael Bush, no doubt about it. Now, keep in mind, what I kept saying about Max Muncy over the offseason was, I think as a first baseman, he is extremely valuable. Because if you look at the type of defense he started playing at first base before the Dodgers got Freddie Freeman, he was a good defensive first baseman. So for a team that wants to take Max Muncy and put him at first base, I think Max Muncy is even more valuable to them maybe than he is to the Dodgers at third base. That was my point about Max Muncy. So I say that to say, you get Michael Bush and you say, okay, well, we need a first baseman. Let's throw him at first base and let's tell him to hit 20 home runs, which he'll do with his eyes closed at major league level, hit 260 or so, and have an OPS that's about 815. I think he would do that as a major league offensive player. Put him at first base, You get Miguel Vargas, you put him at third base, you give him, another team that would pick him up would be able to give him 1,100 at bats over the next 2 years to give Miguel Vargas and Michael Busch every opportunity to get comfortable and to reach their potential as an offensive player. So I think definitely there are a lot of teams out there that would value Miguel Vargas and Michael Busch. Now, are you going to get a marquee name like a Randy Arozarena or Jesus Luzardo? Not by themselves. You're also going to have to add probably a pitcher and a catcher, and then also one of your top-ranked lower prospects at the Rancho level would be my guess. Somebody like a Raindon Cone. I don't see the Dodgers parting ways with Josue de Paula. I know as far as the prospects at the lower levels, he would be the first name that everybody would bring up. I think he's kind of in that Emmett Sheehan, Bobby Miller category where it's anybody else, not him. I think I say it all the time. I don't like to evaluate players until they're at the AA level because that's the biggest jump in terms of the type of major leaguer I think they'll be. Having said that, there are guys like Josue de Paula, that profile with size, the sweet swing, the way that they do things, that you do say, hey, we're not going to give this guy up until we at least see what he does at the AA level. I think he is definitely that guy. So, yes, LHTD, I do think there are suitors for Vargas and Busch, no doubt about it. The thing about the Dodgers, though, they turn over every stone. They make no rash decisions. When they finally, as Doug says, say checkmate, they have gone through, like when you're buying a car, they've gone through every car in the car lot. They've gone through the different packages on every car. They've gone through the price ranges. They've gone through, okay, when did they purchase it? How much did the car lot actually purchase that car for themselves? What's the margin going to be for the car dealer when they sell you that car? The Dodgers have gone through all of those margins when they look for trade packages and free agents as well, but certainly trade packages. So they're patient and they look for those, and they will find the trade that fits, and then the trade that brings back, as Austin says all the time, the biggest margins for them. No doubt about it. That's why the Dodgers almost always win in trade scenarios. And also, they know their prospects better than every other organization knows their prospects. So the Dodgers are just wonderful in the trade market. So we have a wonderful lobby TN. I think the Franco thing might make the Rays want to shed payroll and rebuild a little bit. If the Dodgers put the good prospects available, I think they can do it. I don't disagree with you. I think there is a package, I said it, that the Dodgers could put together that's just too good for the Rays to turn down, especially as the season wears on. If the Rays start and they struggle and they're not the type of team they wanted to be, at that point, I think the Dodgers could definitely put together a prospect package that they would be foolish to turn down. Okay, Random says, yes, I would argue the CT has been even more valuable than Tio. My comparison was purely with the bat. CT's defensive versatility is pretty valuable to the roster as it sits. Yes, because he gives you what's called flexibility. You don't have to have a backup at any other position other than pitcher and catcher in first base because he is your backup. So now you have the flexibility to go add other guys on the roster because you don't need depth because he provides that for you. And Random says, especially if we go with a 6-man rotation. Totally agree there. TN, he's an average player if he just played one position, but has so much value just because he is average in so many positions. That's exactly right. You just exactly said it. I'm long-winded, and so I went through this whole big long spiel to say it. You just absolutely summed up exactly what I'm saying right there, TN, with a wonderful comment. What a great chat we got going on. This is just absolutely fantastic. I say it all the time. Dodgers Daily. Tim Rogers is pretty good too. I go to his chats, and man, he attracts just awesome baseball people that have great conversations. And Tim is maybe the most level-headed Dodgers guy out there. And then also combined with, he's not a clickbait chaser. So he's only going to be talking about topics that are real, topics that make sense to actually talk about. And he's not going to clickbait you to go to his site and just get you to go to his site just because he wants views. Now, we all want views, don't get me wrong, but there's always substance behind what he's talking about. So, yeah, Dodgers Daily, I love the fact that there's so much substance behind our our chat. It's not just clickbait. We're not throwing people under the bus. We're not throwing shade. We're just having wonderful, open-minded, respectful Dodgers talk, and it is, if you can't tell, I'm super pumped. I always get so excited to talk Dodgers baseball with wonderful Dodgers fans like yourself. Teoscar Hernandez, don't forget, by the way, while we have all you on the line, make sure and leave a like. As Doug would say, smash that like button, leave a comment, and if you haven't done so far, become a subscriber. Oscar, good evening, Oscar. Great to hear from you tonight. Hernandez for 4 years fits the window the Dodgers are creating for a championship squad. That includes Freeman and Glasnow. Yes, and again, if you didn't catch it at the beginning, that Teoscar Hernandez has 6 years of Major League service time. So if you offer him 4 years, he's going to take it because that's going to get him to that 10 years of service time, which gets him his pension. So that could be a pro or a con, because if you go 4 years, you can lower your annual value towards him, and but that also adds a year that he's going to be on your payroll. So it's depending on your perspective whether that's a pro or a con. But 100%, Oscar, I think he's going to want 4 years. We've already heard 3 years, but the 4 years does get him to his pension. Michael Carrillo, thank you so much for joining, Michael. Always wonderful to hear from Michael. Michael always has such wonderful comments here in our chat. I think the correct move is to bring in Santander. His defense is worse, but he's more versatile in his offensive game. Anthony Santander was my number 2 outfielder. My number 1 outfielder, pie in the sky probably a lot of people would say, was Randy Arozarena. We've already had that talk. My number 2 outfielder was Anthony Santander, and the reason is a lot of times you have to have what the other team needs. I think that the Orioles have a bunch of really, really nice outfield prospects, but yet they could use a lot of young pitching. So I think the Orioles and Dodgers would make a great trade partner, and I think Anthony Santander would be awesome. I would take Santander myself. This could be debatable. Michael obviously would too. I would take him over Teoscar. That would be my personal opinion. He is my number 2 outfielder that I would target at this point, and I do think that there are some situations to where the Dodgers and Orioles could be good trade partners. So I totally agree with you, Michael. Defense is worse, but more versatility in its offensive game, something of which I want. You say versatility, that's a great way to put it. Maybe a little bit more dynamics to it, a little less boom and bust than Teoscar Hernandez. Danielle Finn, thank you so much for joining. Danielle says, hi, everyone. Hi to yourself, Danielle. We have a wonderful lobby. We have had some unbelievable comments already. So Gordon Ames, Gordon, thank you so much for joining. Gordon always leaves wonderful comments as well, and I'm so pumped that you are in the chat tonight. If Hernandez strikeout rate is 31, it's actually 31.1%. Keep Bush and Vargas in left field. I personally agree with you, Gordon. Or Andy Pages. I think the first guy you put out there is Andy Pages. But again, he's coming off of shoulder surgery. But again, not going to happen. I've been telling you that's not going to happen because you don't sign 2 players to $1 billion only to experiment with Miguel Vargas and Michael Bush in left field. This isn't a team that you experiment with, at least from the Dodgers' perspective. They struggle to incorporate rookies and young players to begin with. They are going to struggle even more doing that with this type of team because just look around. The narrative to this team is Dave Roberts, Tim Rogers said this Friday, Dave Roberts has 2 years on his contract. If the Dodgers don't win a World Series in that 2-year span, this will be considered not a failure, a pretty big failure in the next 2 years. I don't necessarily agree with that. I've been in the game long enough, in the coaching, playing, broadcasting side of things. I know how hard it is to win a championship. You not only need to be the best team, you also need to be hot at the right time or not cold at the right time. You need some good fortune in the way the ball bounces. So it wouldn't be a massive failure to me, but to the Dodger faithful, I think if you don't win a World Series in the next 2 years, it would be considered to the Dodgers fans a massive failure. I don't think Dave Roberts would get rehired at that point. And because of all that, I think you're going to take the fact that the Dodgers struggle to incorporate rookies. You're going to put that on steroids because this organization is going to feel the press and the need to win a World Series in the next 2 years. they're going to feel that. They're going to feel like that hitter at home plate that is over, that it's kind of in a slump. The Dodgers have won one World Series since 1988. You're going to feel like that hitter that's in a slump, and you need that hit. That's how the Dodgers feel right now. They're going to feel that press. So I agree with you, Gordon. I personally would have no issues with it, but I just don't see any way that that's actually going to be the path that the Dodgers take. And for the reasons that I just gave, my chat just, we have such a wonderful chat going on. My chat actually just refreshed. So I need to get back up to the top and get back to these comments. Okay. Hey, Austin. Good evening, Austin. Austin is super busy tonight with his Sunday activities, and so couldn't talk about. I messaged him. Always thought I'd just throw it out there. And also, by the way, going to have Tim Rogers on. Tim and I talked this evening. Tim and I are going to make it more of a consistent thing to where we just enjoy talking to each other too much, and we're going to make it more of a consistent thing where I go on his show, he goes on my show. We talk some prospects, we talk some Dodgers, and we get after it from that perspective. And so I messaged Austin. Austin wasn't available. He's never available on Sundays because he's super, super busy. And then I messaged Tim, said, hey, we need to come on more often. But yeah, Austin is in the chat. And boy, if you haven't checked out his story on Taylor Young, man, make sure and absolutely do that. And also Austin Gothier. They are simply, and hey, Mike, if you're out there, Austin, if you're out there, do you mind going and grabbing those links and linking those in the chat? Austin says, hope everyone's having a great Sunday. Thanks for holding down the fort, Casey. Be sure to ask him any questions. Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'll tell you what, guys. Hey, man, I get accused of being too positive from time to time. That's fine. If the worst thing you can say about me is that I think too highly of these prospects, or if the worst thing you can say about me is that I'm too positive of a person, okay, there's a hell of a lot worse things I've been called in my life. I can deal with that. That's okay with me. So take this for what it's worth. But Austin is an absolute rock star in this show. Austin, the amount of knowledge of the game of baseball itself, but just the rosters of each team, and then also his own perspectives are just simply fantastic and awesome. So every time that I get the chance to talk to Austin and bring him on the show, it is just absolutely a joy, and he does a wonderful job. My chat just refreshed again, so I need to get back of that right here. Okay, so Mikey Kim, Mikey, thank you so much for joining Platoon. Just say it, yeah. Tio is going to be too expensive for a platoon role. Yeah, if you go get Tio, I don't think platoon's the right word, but I don't think he's necessarily an everyday guy in the sense of the way that Mookie Betts would be. I think he's almost an everyday guy, but again, I think the Dodgers have enough depth to play him when the matchups are advantageous for him to maximize his offensive production and value. So there's going to be days to where maybe you say, well, this isn't a good matchup for Tio, so let's not play him today. The Dodgers have that option. And by the way, this is another pro of Teo Hernandez. He is an awesome clubhouse guy. He has that Kike Hernandez, that happy-go-lucky, dance in the dugout, swagger in the dugout, joke around the dugout, keep things loose. He would, that type of role, he would be that. He's the type of guy that is positively infectious. The Dodgers dugout, Dave Roberts, the Dodgers players would love Teo Hernandez. They would love this guy. That's maybe his biggest pro, is the type of person he is and the type of player he is in the dugout. So, yeah, so too expensive for a platoon, but not too expensive for the type of role, Mikey, that I think the Dodgers would have available for him, because I think that type of role it would be fairly substantial and it would always be in an advantageous position for him. Trolley Dodger, Teoscar will rake in this lineup similar as he did in Toronto. Yes, no doubt about it. And a lot of people think Vlad Guerrero missed him in Toronto. Okay. And another thing, this is a great point. Again, I'm going to say it again. The Dodgers Daily Chat is just full of fire takes, no doubt about it. Some of the best, not just Dodgers, but baseball chat analytically and just from an analytical perspective and just a level-headed perspective, no doubt about it. I haven't even mentioned the fact that Teoscar's going to have all-stars around him. He's only going to have to be in the 6 or 7 hole. So he's going to have dudes around him, which is only going to make him better. So that is a great point, Charlie Dodger. I could not agree with you any more than that. Still have just a wonderful lobby going on tonight by myself, and so I appreciate you filling this thing up. This is awesome. Danielle Finn says, look at his road splits last year. Seattle is tough to hit in, no doubt. 100%, no doubt about it. He is another guy that, like Manny Margot, you say, well, he didn't hit. Okay, well, look at him away from the Trop. Manny Margot is a lot better away from Tropicana than he was at home because those places are harder to hit in, right? Okay, so if you look at the splits away from home, you could make the argument that Teoscar Hernandez is going to be a better offensive player just from that perspective. What a great point that is, Danielle. Thank you for bringing that up. That actually wasn't even on my list of pros and cons, but you are 100% correct. Good evening, Roy. Thank you so much for joining. We have a wonderful, wonderful chat so far. Roy says, good evening to all you wonderful Dodgers fans. Cobra Commander, if he's willing to change his name, we will consider it. Yeah. Okay. Mikey Kim, sup, Roy? No doubt. Roy is wonderful. Everybody loves Roy in the chat. Roy always has just an awesome personality, gets along with everybody, and then just has awesome comments. Okay, Muncy needs to move to the 7 to 9 hole lineup. We can't have multiple swing and miss batters in the lineup. Muncy needs to bat a great point. That's also why I felt like that James Outman needed to be the 9 hole last year. And because if you put James Outman at the 9 hole, then that puts Mookie Betts instead of Miguel Rojas behind James Outman. And if you put Mookie Betts behind James Outman, then James Outman throughout the year gets way better pitches to hit. And if James Outman gets way better pitches to hit, he hits home runs. He hits doubles. He gets on base, and he probably steals. If James Outman is in the 9 hole consistently every game last year, he's a 20-20 player because he's on base more. He was a 20 whatever, I don't know how many home runs, 20, I think 25 home runs he hit and 16 stolen bases. But if he's in the 9 hole in front of Mookie Betts and he gets better pitches to hit, I think his batting average raises, I think his on-base percentage raises, and I think he's a 20-20 player. So yes, where you're at in the order absolutely matters. I think the boomer bust nature of Max Muncy, though, I will say this, I think the boomer bust from Max Muncy, when it's boom, I will say this, Mikey, it drives in a lot. I think that was Mikey that said that. It drives in a lot of runs. So that would be the counter to putting him down the argument, is that whenever he is in boom mode, then he's driving in a ton of runs, which really is the value of Max Muncy. Hey, we have a super chat. Awesome. The Right Field Pavilion. Thank you so much. $20 super chat. Wow. Let me give that a big fat like right there. That is fantastic. Do you believe Will Smith calls a good game? I understand he has the cheat sheet on every batter, but at times I'm shocked at the pitch selection. What are your thoughts? Okay, this is a tough one. I think, first of all, when you look at a catcher calling pitches, and I talked to this with Hunter Fiducia about this quite a bit. In the Dodgers organization, you're dealing with different types of pitch mixes. You're you're dealing with guys from different international backgrounds, guys who went to college, guys from big cities, guys from small cities. So before you get to actually calling a game, the biggest aspect that a catcher has when dealing with pitchers is actually having a personality that in the meetings can run a meeting for a million different personalities, a million different backgrounds, and to get buy-in from all of your pitchers all on the same level that have all those different backgrounds. I can tell you for 100% fact, Will Smith 100% has that buy-in in the meetings. As far as pitch calling, it's kind of like, I think, Dave Roberts, I think before they go into games, they have all the matchups set up. I think there's scenarios to where Dave has autonomy on things, and once the game starts, it's up to him, but I think they've already gone through all the analytics and matchups, so I do think almost all of the pitch calling is already done for Will Smith, and I think he's better with certain pitchers than he is others. I'll just put it to you that way. I think that is a real thing. Now, overall, you want me to give my opinion, I think Will Smith is okay calling pitches. I think if you look at the Dodgers ERA, both in the here's where my proof is. If you look at the ERA going into last year, they'd been first in the league like every year except for once since 2012. And their bullpen has also been dominant too. And then also, I felt like they did a great job recovering with the bullpen in the second half of last year. And I think you have to give Will Smith a lot of credit for that. And also, keep in mind, here is maybe the biggest value of Austin Barnes. Trust me, Will Smith and Austin Barnes game plan this every single day. So Austin Barnes, even when Will Smith is catching, Austin Barnes in between innings, in between games, you name it, they are game planning together with Mark Pryor how to attack certain hitters. So from that perspective, I think Will does a good job, but I think his biggest aspect to that is that he has tremendous resources around him. I hope that answered your question. Thank you again so much for that super chat. That is so wonderful. The right field pavilion, thank you so much. And that is just absolutely awesome. Okay, we have just a tremendous crowd and lobby going tonight. Let me get back to where we were at before I got back up to that super chat, and I'm again by myself, so if there's some awkward silence here, I apologize for that. I'm doing my best to get back and forth. Okay, so Nando says if they trade Hernandez, and I think it's followed by a big trade or vice versa. Yep, there's got to be some kind of corresponding move because you'd have 41 on your roster. So the corresponding move is either a DFA or a trade. Yeah, Lopez Jr. Mario, hey, says Kershaw as a closer. Thank you so much for joining Lopez every Wednesday or Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Like I said earlier, if you sign Kershaw, I don't think you'll have to start in a playoff game, which allows him not necessarily as a closer, but I think he definitely could be a bullpen piece. No doubt about that. Okay, so we are right here to TN. Yes, I agree. Trade back in pieces for one guy. We like to open up 40-man spots, no doubt. Okay, Roy, Mikey Kim says hi to Mikey Kim. All right, El Rojas, thank you for joining, Rojas. The outfield needs attention. Yes, the Dodgers are trying. I think Friedman made it very clear that they are going to get an outfielder. He made it clear they need an outfielder, and they're going to get one. The guy he described the other day would be Teoscar Hernandez, but I do think that outfield is going to get attention. Kershaw would be the worst closer, says Mike. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a closer, but I do think in the playoff, like I said, I think he could be a bullpen piece. Nando 390 says if they sign Hernandez, and I think it's folly. Yeah, okay, just read that one. All right, Abstract. Good evening, Abstract. Thank you so much for joining. Certainly appreciate you joining the chat. We have such a wonderful chat going on tonight. So we're looking at another Joey Gallo with Hernandez. Okay, I think there's some things. Gallo, first of all, Gallo's awesome defensively. Gallo's way better than Teoscar Hernandez defensively. Teoscar Hernandez, I think, has turned himself into an average defender. Joey Gallo is above average, in my opinion, as a defender. So I think you're getting a worse defender than Joey Gallo in Teoscar Hernandez. And yes, you are getting a boom or bust bat in Teoscar Hernandez. No doubt about it. I think the difference is, though, Abstract, first of all, he's right-handed, and you need a right-handed hitter for one. And the second difference is he hits left-handers very well, and he hits a lot of home runs off of left-handers. And so, because of that, he's a guy that you can put in advantageous positions to accent what he does well while also hiding what he doesn't. And people always ask me, why don't you go over more what these guys don't do well? And the reason is they don't make the major leagues on that. They make the major leagues on what they can do. And then what the organization does is that they try to get these guys so good at what they are good at doing that what they're not good at doing doesn't become a factor. So I think that would be the position the Dodgers would take on Teoscar Hernandez. And again, I think they have the depth to be able to do something like that. So my chat keeps refreshing on me. Let me get back to it. So great point, Abstract. You are 100% correct. Boom or bust. Again, that's one of the cons for me is that Teoscar Hernandez would be adding more boom or bust to a lineup that I already think is too boom or bust to begin with. Mikey Kim, but Kershaw has a PTSD in the playoffs in clutch moments. Yeah, he's struggled. I think time to time he's felt like he's put too much pressure on himself. I think if you just make him just another guy versus the guy, maybe that relaxes him. And also I think this offense is going to be such to where maybe the pressure isn't as good either because they're going to hit. So that would be the hope. Roy, trade Vesia and Ferguson and give our prospects some experience. Ferguson and Vesia, proven failures. Yeah, again, I think Caleb Ferguson's going to have a good year. That goes to your lefty options in the bullpen. And I know a lot of people, Caleb Ferguson drives them nuts. He was put in high leverage situations. I get it. Alex Vesia, I've talked about emotionally. It seems like he's a roller coaster. I get it. My question would be, though, you would think, I mean, Victor Gonzalez got traded, so you would think other teams would want left-handers that have proven good major league experience. You know, Caleb Ferguson and Alex Vesia have shown at the major league level from time to time they can be very good pitchers at the major league level. So I think there would be suitors on that, but I do think that I think hide and watch. I do think that Caleb Ferguson is going to have a good year. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. Random says, to throw a deal out there, would you pull the trigger on a deal including Bush, Cartaya, Pages, Knack, and Stone for Robert Jr.? 100%. Not even. Okay, it's not, in my opinion, it's not about giving up too much or too little. It's about your needs as an organization. Okay, so let's go through that. Diego Cartaya. You have Will Smith. You need to re-sign him. You have Hunter Fiducia. You have Dalton Rushing. You have Tyrone Lorenzo. You have Yainer Fernandez. You have Jesus Scalise. You have depth at the catcher spot to absorb Diego Cartaya. Michael Bush. You have nowhere to play this guy. I know that Brandon Gomes came out and said that he is not a AAA player, but since then you've moved Mookie Betts to second base, you re-signed Max Muncy, and now you're looking to sign a left fielder. So at that point, I know you said that Michael Bush needs to be in a major league roster, but everything you're doing is blocking him. So from that perspective, you don't even have a position for Michael Bush. Andy Pages, if you go get a Teoscar Hernandez. Jason Hayward had a +6 outs above average last year. He is a good defender. Him and Manny Margot is going to be a good platoon. Because, again, kind of like I was talking about with Teoscar, you're going to be able to put both of those guys in advantageous positions. So Andy Pages, yes, he would be a loss. Again, don't forget, he had the shoulder injury. You have no idea how he's going to come back from that either. I don't think he's an everyday starter until next year at the beginning. So, yes, I think Pages would be worth it. Knack, again, look at the right-handed pitching depth. Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, Nick Frasso, Kyle Hurt, Gavin Stone, Michael Grove, Ben Kasparius, and then you have the lefty crop behind that with Ronan Cobb, and you have Justin Robleski, Maddox Bruns. Then you have guys like Ricky Vanasco who have been starters. Gus Varlin has been a starter in his past. He's a right-hander. Then you have two lefties in Alec Gamboa and John Rooney that used to be starters. So you can absorb, although Landon Knack is a very skilled 4-pitch strike thrower, you can absorb Landon Knack. You can absorb Gavin Stone. And then in return, you're getting an all-star. So I would do that deal. I would not hesitate. It would not even be close. I would do that deal, and I would run with it. No doubt about it. Plus all those guys, Gavin Stone, Landon Knack, Andy Paz, Diego Cartaya, Michael Bush, honestly, it'd be better for them. And then the Dodgers go win 3 or 4 World Series. Who loses? Let me ask you that. Let's look at it from this perspective. The Dodgers go get Robert Jr. You win 2 or 3 World Series. All those guys get to have major league careers. So my question would be, who loses? In that scenario, who loses? My answer to that would be nobody. Okay, later, guys, family call. Okay, yeah, thank you for joining while you could. Mikey, thank you so much. Every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Lopez, Junior Mario. Playoffs are a different role as in the playoffs to a closing pitcher. Give him a shot. We haven't even given him a chance in that role. Yeah, that's talking about Clayton Kershaw and the closer role. And we did see Julio Urias. He got the last 3 outs of the 2020 World Series. So maybe not say, hey, he's our closer, but there could be a scenario to where if you don't go get a Josh Hader or an Emmanuel Clase, that Clayton Kershaw does get the last 3 outs of a huge game in the playoffs. So I would totally be on board with that. No doubt about that. We've already seen it with Julio Urias. Mr. Slash X, pass on T.O. Yep, and they're again, this is one of those deals. It's not like Mookie Betts. It's not like Freddie Freeman. It's not like Shohei Ohtani. It's not like Yamamoto. Once you gave the 5 for 5 for Tyler Glass, now Ryan Pepiot, it's not even like that. This is going to be gray area. This is going to be a divisive topic for Dodgers fans. There are going to be a lot of Dodgers fans that think, hell yeah, go get him. He hits home runs. Let's go. Let's capitalize on the momentum. And then there's going to be other fans like Lopez Jr., Mario, or excuse me, like Mr. /X, that are going to be like, no thanks. He strikes out too much. This is going to be a debated topic. It's not black and white with him, no doubt about it. Lopez Jr., Mario, I'd trade Stone and Grove in a heartbeat before Vesia and Ferguson. Yep. It will all depend on what kind of value you can get back for either one of them, but I can understand left-handed bullpen pieces are pretty valuable. And keep in mind, guys, we see our guys every day, but relief pitching is volatile. Like Ryan Brazier most likely won't have near as good of a year as he did last year. Guy like Yency Almonte, great year, subpar year. Alex Vesia, great year, subpar year. That's what most run-of-the-mill relief guys do in the major leagues. That's why that's why clubs like the Dodgers that are so analytically based, they don't put a lot of stock into just going out and breaking the bank to get relief guys because they know there's too much volatility to it. Does that make sense to you? So yeah, from that perspective, Alex Vesia, Caleb Ferguson are due to have good years. We'll see. So, I don't disagree with you there. That might not happen. We'll see. You also have Ryan Yarbrough. And then again, in the playoffs, I think you're going to have Clayton Kershaw. That gives you 4 left-handed bullpen options. I think that's enough. That's just my personal opinion, though. Okay, El Rojas, Rosarina, and Bellinger. Yeah, interesting that Max Muncy on his foul territory, he made a comment about some teammates in the past that were worried about their personal statistics. He didn't name anybody, but I thought that was a very weird comment to make. I don't know that it came out exactly the way that Max wanted it to. I think he was more trying to brag on the culture they have right now. Guys, I've been telling you for however long that I've been doing this. The culture in the Dodgers system is real. You heard it from Max Muncy, and it matters. The culture matters. I thought that was an interesting comment. So the Dodgers are going to stay away from people at this point that are me first type of people. I mean, look at Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani is the greatest free agent of all time in terms of publicity and the signing of the money and all that. And guess what he did? He made one of the most selfless acts in the history of baseball, right? By deferring all of his money so this team could get better. That is the exact example of how the Dodgers culture matters. 100%. So I think it'd be interesting. I do not think the Dodgers would bring Cody Bellinger back just because who knows what kind of year he's going to have. And I just don't think they want to deal with the headache of maybe, going to terms with him and trying to hash out a contract and all that. But that's just my opinion. I have no real inside information. Just from what I've seen, that would be my opinion on that. Josh H., thank you so much for joining. We have an awesome crowd tonight. Kershaw had an amazing career with the Dodgers, but if he doesn't re-sign, we could sign Bauer. Yes, we talked a little bit. I talked with Tim Friday about Bauer. Trevor Bauer, I hope that he gets his life in order. I hope what he said the other day was genuine. Words don't matter to me. I've been in the education business and coaching business for my entire life or playing. I've also had kids, a kid of my own, okay? Words don't matter to me. Actions are the only thing that matters. So we'll see if Trevor Bauer's actions actually back up his words. I hope they do for his sake. Having said all that, he is never going to be a Dodger ever again. So, it's just not going to happen. So the right field pavilion, all I want is a consistent offense. I'm with you. You are exactly right, man. I want an offense that when you're not hitting home runs to win games, you can walk, you can get a couple base hits, you can hit behind a runner, you can hit a sacrifice fly, and you can score 4 or 5 runs without a home run on a night you actually didn't play very good offense and still win a game 5-4 because you were dynamic enough to generate some runs. That creates consistency. So I am 100% with you on that right field pavilion. No doubt about it. Teoscar is identical to Muncy and CT3. Yep, boom or bust. That is his con. His biggest con is that he adds to the boom or bust. Lopez Jr. Mario says get rid of Stone. Yeah, and get something back for him. Roy says pavilion facts. No doubt about it. Says Roy, I agree with both of you. Zilla Zoom Thank you so much for joining Zella. We have a wonderful crowd tonight. Again, as we move on, make sure and hit that like button. Leave a like, leave a comment, not just in the chat, but leave a comment as well. And if you're not a subscriber, make sure and subscribe. No doubt about it. Zella says CT3 comes up clutch. That is definitely his biggest con. No, that's one of his biggest cons. Or excuse me, no. That is one of his biggest pros. His biggest pro is his versatility and the flexibility that creates on the Dodgers roster. But the clutch gene, just go back to his days at Virginia. His team in Virginia, they were down 1 run with the bases loaded, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th inning. CT3 came up and got a base hit, scored 2 runs, and won the game against UC Irvine. His clutch gene goes all the, I don't think a lot of people realize this about him. This is why he has that gene, in my opinion. He would have been a world-class wrestler. When he was younger in middle school, he wrestled in the Virginia area, and he won like all the tournaments he went to, the citywide tournaments. He was a big-time wrestler. And I love how wrestling relates to baseball, being a baseball coach forever, because, when you're on the wrestling mat, there's no excuses. It's mano a mano. It's you against your opponent. When you're in the batter's box, okay, yeah, you can kind of blame the umpire, but, by and large, it's there for everybody to see. When you make an error in the field, it's there for everybody to see. It's not like on a football field where there's 11 guys and nobody even knows if you missed a block, right? Okay, it is just out front. And so that wrestling background, I think, got Chris Taylor conditioned to handle those one-on-one, me versus you, by God, I'm going to kick your ass type moments. And because of that, he developed a clutch gene, and it has been with him every single since. Still can't believe they put Barnes out there instead of Taylor. Yep, swing path. Yep. Lopez Jr., Mario Taylor is a beast. One thing about Chris Taylor, too, because he lifts his hands with a negative bat angle, he really has to hit the ball. In my opinion, he has to let the ball get deep and hit up the middle, because he has to think up the middle. And the reason is because I think whenever he does that, he lets the ball get a little deeper. And because of that, he hits the ball before his hands are lifting. And when his hands are lifting, he's either going to hit it in the air for a home run, or he's going to roll over it for a ground ball. And that's where he gets very inconsistent. So when he's letting the ball get a little bit deeper, his hands aren't lifting quite as much, and therefore it becomes a little bit more consistent. So I totally agree with that swing path comment you have there, Zella. Okay, CT3 could possibly play catcher if needed. Yeah, I'm sure he could. Roy, we will still have to worry about Outman and Will Smith. They need to become reliable bats. Yeah, Outman was pretty good. Will Smith had an up and down year, no doubt about it, but I think he's a good offensive player. And the thing about Outman, too, is that he has a good eye. He gets on base. He steals bases. So even if he is striking out, he struck out too much last year, not going to defend that part of his game. He still does other things that make him dynamic, that make him a productive offensive player. And just kind of as a example, James Outman, let me pull this up just 1 second here, and give me just 1 second. Let me kind of give you an example of what I'm talking about with James Outman. Okay, so last year he had a 4.4 WAR. Okay, that is simply fantastic. And his WRC plus was 118. So although his strikeout percentage was 31.9%, that is 6.9% too high. James Outman, to become the best version of James Outman he possibly can be, I've said this for many different times, he needs to get his strikeout percentage to 25%. 31.9%, way too high for a strikeout percentage. Can't defend that. Even with a 31.9% strikeout percentage, 4.4 WAR, 118 WRC plus. And that's because if you look at, his ISO is 188, okay? So his ISO is very, very, very good. And then you look at his stolen bases, 16 stolen bases, and you look at his walk rate, 12%. So there's a lot of dynamic elements to his offense that even when he's striking out too much, gives you a good offensive player even when he's doing that. So, yeah, I agree with you there. They need to become more reliable. James Outman not striking out as much, and Will Smith just seemed like he was on a roller coaster offensively last year. TN says Harrison Bader just signed. Yep, no doubt, $10.5 million with incentives. Taylor at $13 million a year. while a slight overpay isn't terrible. I agree. I'm telling you, he's more valuable than just maybe the outlying numbers would suggest on the surface of things. Zella, they need a lefty. They need Luzardo from Miami. Cobra, trade Dave Roberts for some Pokemon cards. Okay, Dave Roberts is a hot button topic, and I know you're making a joke there. Here is the beautiful thing about Dave Roberts, Cobra, and seriously, I mean this with all seriousness. Dave Roberts has, 2 years left on his contract? The Dodgers have to win a World Series in one of those 2 years, or Dave Roberts is not going to get rehired. I firmly believe that. So you're getting the best of all worlds. You're either going to get a World Series and keep Dave Roberts for guys like you, or you're not going to get a World Series and you're going to get a new manager. That's what's going to happen, okay? When Ohtani signed, that's what happened. It's wonderful, like when these colleges like Oklahoma State built a $60 million baseball facility. Hey, it's awesome. It's awesome to play in. It's awesome to practice in. But now you better damn sure make the College World Series, or people are going to have expectations on you. So going and getting Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glass now, and still looking for trades and doing all this and doing all that, okay? That's going to make it to where Dave Roberts has to win a World Series in one of the next 2 years. I don't think there's any doubt about it. So I think from that perspective, people who aren't Dave Roberts fans, I think this is a great scenario for them. It's finally getting solved for them. There is going to come to a conclusion about this situation with them, and it's going to be a win either way. Either you win World Series, which we all want, or you get a new manager. That's what I'll say about that. Okay, so TN says actually $13 million is right around market price for what Taylor provides. Diana versus Sturgeon. Thank you so much for joining Diana versus Sturgeon. Again, every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to leave a like. Hit that like button. Leave a comment, not just the chat. Leave a comment and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. Okay, any update on Brandon Woodruff? He's going to be last, and he's going to be after the pitchers and catchers report at the very earliest, even if he's on the Dodgers' radar, because he's going to take up a 40-man roster spot. If you put him on the roster right now, he is going to take up a 40-man roster spot that you need, okay? So the Dodgers just logistically cannot sign Brandon Woodruff until pitchers and catchers report, because then at that time, when pitchers and catchers report, that's when you put all of your 60-day IL guys on the 60-day. That opens up 40-man roster spots, something of which Brandon Woodruff would take. He would actually be one of those 60-man IL guys. So stay tuned for him. I think he would be an out-of-the-box nice pickup for the Dodgers, but it won't be until pitchers and catchers report. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. We will monitor that, and we will see what the Dodgers do when the pitchers and catchers report. No doubt about that. Bobby will be better in October. Yes, no doubt about it. The playoff experience is good. Bobby Miller is very competitive. He has great stuff. Cobra says if Kershaw comes back, he should give us a discount, and he's going to want to pitch in postseason to make up for last year. 100%. But I think that pitching isn't going to be as a starter. I think it can be in advantageous matchups in a relief setting. I think you could do that for Clayton Kershaw. I think he could be a starter in. But again, this guy thinks like a dog, man. I mean, how much of a reduced role, how reduced of a role would Kershaw accept? That would be the question right there. King Yellowman, thank you so much for joining every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and become a subscriber. I don't think Kershaw comes back. Boy, it'll be interesting. I think, well, and I've said this about Clayton Kershaw. If the Dodgers do sign him, it's going to be after pitchers and catchers report. I've been saying that ever since the last out of last year, and that's because that's when you open up your roster spots. So if they sign Kershaw, I don't think you can look into they haven't signed him yet as he's not coming back. I think that actually plays more into, I think the fact that he hasn't signed with anybody yet tells me that he is leaning towards the Dodgers and just waiting until a 40-man roster spot is open, because if he goes on the 40-man right now you got to DFA somebody or come up with a trade, whereas you don't have to do that, and that's coming. I mean, that's like, what, a little over 30 days away from right now? So, I mean, it's not that long from now. So I think the fact that nobody has signed Kershaw yet actually favors the fact that he is coming back with the Dodgers. Okay, so why do we still have Barnes on the roster? Mr. /X says that. One, well, he's a culture guy. This is a hot button topic. And also, for guys that aren't going to play very much, just strictly be a backup. Don't compare Austin Barnes to the other catchers in the league. Compare Austin Barnes to all of the other backup catchers in the league. Okay? So give me the names of all the other backup catchers, and then let's compare what they could bring to the Dodgers that would be so much better, substantially better, than what Austin Barnes brings to the Dodgers to go ahead and make that move and DFA Austin Barnes. Who are the backup catchers that would be substantially better than Austin Barnes to the point to where they would bring so much more to the Dodgers as a backup that would justify DFAing a guy that caught the last pitch of the 2020 World Series? Who are those guys? I'm not saying there's not one out there. I'm saying if there is a backup catcher that is so much better when you're talking about the culture, the type of teammate he is, the way that he works with Will Smith, the way that he works with Clayton Kershaw, all the things that he does that aren't on the field. Plus, I know there's probably some backup catchers you could say that hit better and all that. So my question would be, who would it be? That's why he's on the roster, is because when you compare all the other backup catchers out there, there isn't one in the Dodgers' mind that would bring so much more back to the club than Austin Barnes that it justifies actually cutting him, DFAing him, and creating that type of situation. That's why he's on the roster. Whether you agree with that or not, that's up to you. Some people will agree with that, some won't. But that is 100% exactly why he is on the roster, in my opinion. Okay, so we have a wonderful chat going on. Thank you guys so much for joining the chat tonight. It has been just simply fantastic. Okay, thoughts on bringing back Kike? Zella, it was either going to be Kike or Chris Taylor, because you can't have two guys that are your backup at each position. Kike is an okay player, not great. Chris Taylor, okay player, not great. If they're a starter, they're probably both below average players. So their whole value is bringing you depth to 7 different positions. So if you have both of them on your team, then one of them doesn't have that value of being a backup at 7 different positions. Now they have to become a starter. Now they're probably a below average starter. So you can't have Kike and Chris Taylor on the roster at the same time. In my opinion, it was either Kike or Chris Taylor, and the club chose Chris Taylor. King Yellow Man, we extended Barnes. Lopez, Junior Mario, let's just sign Judge, Trout, Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor, Blake Snell, Garrett Cole, Garrett Verlander, and let's get this thing over with, right? Let's go win every World Series for the next 12 years, and let's be done with it. All right. Okay, Oscar, if Teoscar signed for $15 million AAV for 4+ years, he'll be a regular in the lineup. I think that's about where it's – I don't know the exact money totals, okay, but I think the 4 years is going to get close, and I think if you offer him 4 years, he would be more willing to take a lower AAV. Yeah, so we'll see. But I think the 4 years, I think you're going to hear that. Okay, Abstract says, who do you think Muncy was talking about? I'm not going to go there. I usually don't skirt around questions. I do honestly have opinions on who I think he was talking about. But I'm going to refrain from that one. It's a great question. But I don't stand to win anything by giving out exact names. But I think you can read between the lines. Let me put you this way. I think the same people that you would come up with, I think the same people that all the Dodgers fans would come up with would be the same people that I would come up with. Okay. Michael Carrillo, thank you for your comment. Michael, thank you so much for joining. I think Whit Merrifield on a 2-year deal with us could be a great move. Oh, no doubt. I've mentioned that name several different times. I love Whit Merrifield, no doubt about it. He would be an absolute, yeah, right, no doubt about it. So let me actually get into some of his numbers. And because I have brought his name up on more than one occasion. I'm so glad, Michael, that you brought his name up. Let me get to him just for a second here. And, all right, I usually have a partner here, so these aren't awkward dead moments here. Okay, so Whit Merrifield, the first value I think that he would bring is that he is okay, let me back up. Let me say this again. One of the reasons why I've been so for Mookie Betts moving to second base is because I thought it would be easier to find an offensive slugging outfielder. Does that make sense? So that's why I was like, oh yeah, move Mookie Betts to second base. Let's go get an outfielder. And hey, we're a better team right now. I think that made sense. But also another way you could look at it is go get Whit Merrifield, move Mookie Betts out to right field. Now your platoon in left field is Manny Margot and Jason Hayward. Now you're awesome. So yeah, if you were to ask me all those scenarios, go get, other than Randy Arozarena, I think, and maybe a Santander, I think if you were to ask me, though, I think the best scenario would be throw Whit Merrifield at second base for 2 years, put Mookie Betts back out in right field, platoon Jason Hayward, Manny Margot in left, and away you go. That is a fantastic, Michael, I have not even thought about that. That's not a name that anybody has even brought up in a while. I talked about him quite a bit during the season. That is an awesome idea, though. Yeah, no doubt about that. Roy says, good evening, Michael. That is a wonderful, again, I'm going to say it again. Tim Rogers over Dodgers 2080 here. All of us Dodgers community, okay, this is the best baseball crowd, no doubt about it. The comments here are just so level-headed. They're so smart. The IQ baseball-wise, the comments, the IQ behind going into these comments, it's just simply fantastic, no doubt about it. King Yellowman fan, Peterson platoon in left field. Yeah, I'm not a Jock Peterson fan. I'm just not. And slap boxing matches post game. Yeah, I didn't catch the humor in that at the beginning of that. I don't know why I didn't catch that. That's totally on me. My wife will tell you I'm usually pretty quick-witted, and I should have recognized that right off the bat. I just didn't get it. Okay, El Rojas, what about bringing Peralta back? No, I'm an absolute no on that. And the reason I'm a no on that, not dynamic enough. Not enough home runs, not enough stolen bases. So if you're not going to hit home runs, then you need to steal bases. If you're not going to steal bases, then you need to hit home runs. Either way, you need to be dynamic from one or the other. He's just another dude. I think anybody, I just think just about anybody you could go get would be a better pick than David Peralta at this point. That's just my opinion, though. You could again, lots of gray area. Cole says if they sign a free agent bat, I guess they go get Bieber and Clase as a trade package. Yes, or Luzardo, right? Yeah, or Luzardo, something like that. All right, Mikey saying hi to Roy. Mike Lopez, this is not counting if the Dodgers go after Roki Sasaki and how Dustin May coming back. Yep, no doubt. We mentioned that earlier. And also, don't forget Tony Gonsolin. And you also might sign Clayton Kershaw to a 2-year contract. DC, Rushing and Hurt are untouchables in the minors for me, no doubt. I told you the other night, Kyle Hurt is my number 2 prospect in the organization. My number 1 would be Michael Busch, just for the fantastic work he's done at the minor league level. Dalton Rushing is a rock star. I will say this, though. Untouchable, yes, in the sense that you want to wait to see what he does at the AA level, but I don't like to give prognostications on the type of major league player I think these guys will be until they hit that AA level. When Dalton Rushing hits that AA level and he's still the same Dalton Rushing and he's hitting bombs and his plate discipline is still insane, at that point, you know he's going to be a great major leaguer, in my opinion. Until then, yes, he's an untouchable prospect. He's a guy that has a lot of potential, okay, but he's not a guy that you can unequivocally at this point say that, oh, this is the type of major league career he's going to have, because I think, and I'm not saying he won't, I'm just saying I don't like to do that until they reach AA, because I can tell you for a fact that jump to AA is the defining one. It's the hardest one. It's the one, if you can still have success at AA, you are a major league player. Period. In a discussion. All you need at that point is opportunity. People don't understand that. I mean, yes, there is a big gap between AAA and the major leagues, no doubt about it. But I'm telling you, if you can have success at the AA level, you are a major league talented player. You're talented enough to be in the major leagues. Now it's just a matter of waiting for opportunity. Okay, T and Sasaki is an amazing pitcher too. Yes, they are going to get Sasaki. I'm just totally convinced of that. sign Woodruff to pitch in 25. Yes, again, that would come after pitchers and catchers report. Okay, Zella says Braves lineup is probably deeper. Phillies may have maybe 2 or 3. Dodgers are also need a lefty starter to combat the Phillies' lefty power in case they face them in October. I wouldn't disagree with that. Lopez Jr. Mario or JD making play the outfield. Yeah, I personally wouldn't do that. I don't think JD Martinez in left field is an experiment that you necessarily want to do with Shohei Ohtani. I would rather go get a Teoscar Hernandez than play JD Martinez in left field, but that's just my opinion. And again, I'm going to say it again, there's going to be a lot of gray area here. There's going to be a lot of agree and disagree. It's not black and white. So there's some fans are going to think this, others are going to think that, and that is awesome, right? That's why they invented vanilla, because not everybody likes chocolate, right? So I love the fact that we all have our different opinions, and we're able to give them respectfully, and we're able to have great Dodgers talk. Zella says I could see May as a bullpen piece, no doubt. I think Dustin May would be an awesome closer. That 99-mile-an-hour two-seam would be awesome. Okay, Mike Lopez, thank you for joining, Mike. Ohtani could even become our new closer for you. Hey, great idea. Yeah, and don't pressure his arm rehab. Hey, that's a great idea. You know, if you want Ohtani not to have to stress on the pitching, at least for maybe 2025, you know, that wouldn't be a terrible idea at all. Brent Sachs, hey, thank you, Brent, for joining every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Just a reminder, hit that like button, leave a comment, and if you're not a subscriber already, become a subscriber to Dodgers Daily. I really believe Randy Rosarina should be the number 1 trade target, no doubt. He just brings so much need to the team. He's cheap, too. It's worth giving up prospects. The fact that he is cheap and that he's controllable for, I think, 3 years, don't quote me on that. Austin's the guy who's always spot on those. That's why he would be so expensive in prospect capital. And that's also why if the Braves don't trade him, they don't want to trade him, that would be the reason why. So the reasons why the Dodgers would want him are the same reasons why Tampa Bay don't want to trade him yet, and the reasons why the Dodgers haven't gotten that done. Where does Justin Turner go? I'm hearing the Diamondbacks. Okay, I think the Diamondbacks are a very good possibility. I think playing in L.A., you know, he played for New York, didn't have success. Came to Los Angeles, had success, was in Boston, whatever. He's going to want a warmer climate, and I think Arizona definitely matches for him. Mike, our moderator, Mike, 2025 Dodgers will sign Murakami. Yes, and we are going to have a hot take on Murakami, a third baseman that hits absolute bombs. Trust me on that. So Mike is saying that Murakami is going to be the replacement to Muncy at third base, and then Sasaki is going to replace Gonsolin in the pitching rotation. And trust me, Mike has been correct on all of the international prospects. He was on Yamamoto way before anybody else was on Yamamoto. He told you the Dodgers weren't going to get Imanaga. And then he's also told you going all the way back to about 2 months ago that Roki Sasaki was going to be the next Dodger international after Yamamoto. So Mike is your international guru, no doubt. Dodgers going to get Bieber and Clase. Book it. Yeah, that would be a big trade. You'd have to give up a lot of prospects. Hep C, good evening, Hep C. Thank you for joining. Hepatitis, see you later. Randy is not getting traded. I'm with you on that. Tio is the best thing available. Realistically, he crushes lefties, so it's one of those best consolation pivot moves. Yep, we've talked about that. And the Dodgers could put him only in advantageous positions. Plus, Tio is just going to get cost cash. You can still have your prospects for other moves, 100%. That is exactly right. So you either use your prospects for a pitcher, then get your outfielder in free agency, or you get your outfielder via trade, you get your pitcher via free agency. That is 100% correct. Okay, what about Whit Merrifield? We just talked about him, Vinny. That would be a great move because that solves your outfield problem by moving Mookie Betts back out to the outfield. Now Margot and Hayward are your left field platoon. I think that's a great move, but I brought him up several different times. I love Whit Merrifield. Okay, Jose Ayala, thank you so much for joining, Jose. He says, I think the Dodgers should let the season play by and then make a trade before the deadline. We need guys to be performers in October. Here's my problem with that. The extended wild card means that almost every single team is still in the playoff run at the trade deadline. It's why Ohtani didn't get dealt last year, because as not good of a season as the Angels were having, they were only like 3 games back from the wild card spot. So at the trade deadline, there aren't going to be any just clear-cut sellers, because even if you're not having a very good year, you're only going to be like 5-6 games out of the wild card, even if you're not having a good year. So I'm not sure that players are any cheaper. That we saw that at the trade deadline last year. I think in some ways it's going to be a bigger overpay at that point, because for an organization to tell its fan base, hey, we're only 4 games back from a wild card spot, but we're going to get rid of Randy Arozarena, our all-star caliber left fielder. The Tampa Bay Devil Ray fans are going to go, what the hell are you talking about? We have a chance to make the play. So they're going to have to be able to go back to their fan base and go, I get it, but we got Kyle Hurt. We got Michael Busch, Miguel Vargas. We got Diego Cartaya and Rain Don Cone. We had to do it. And then at that point, the fans will go, okay, well, it makes sense. Okay. So I'm not sure that the trade deadline is I told you at the end of trade deadline last year, I thought the Dodgers would pivot to the trade market in the offseason and away from the trade deadline because of the wild card situation. And that's exactly what they've done. So I still think the trade moves should be offseason. I don't think the strategy of waiting for the trade deadline is a good one anymore because of the wild card scenario. Just my opinion. Now, I know that these contracts are closer to the end of their contracts because it's July 31st instead of the beginning of January. I get all that. But in Randy Arozarena's case, he's still going to have enough team control to where it's going to be ridiculously expensive. And if the D-Rays do have a good year, Arozarena is going to be infinitely more expensive at that point. Let's say that the Tampa Bay Devil Rays are winning the wild card position. They ain't getting rid of Arozarena, and if they do, it's going to be even more expensive at that point. I could be wrong. That's just my opinion on it. But okay, Kapil Agarwal. Hey, thank you for joining. I think I said that right, or Kapil or Capel. I hope I said that correct. Thank you so much for joining every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure and hit that like button. Leave a comment. Tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily. Become a subscriber. I don't think Teoscar profiles well in the postseason. Yeah, well, the home run deal, we'll see. Again, lots of gray area. It's going to be lots of opinions. Hep C, Busch has to be traded right now. Right now. Right now. Michael Busch has to be traded, 100%. He's the only one that needs to be moved. Landon Knack could be another one. He's 26. He's kind of getting up there too. Okay, Danielle, signing Teoscar adds to outfield stability for next year when Hayward and Margot are both gone. Yes, because I think you're going to sign him at least to 3 years, probably 4. Maybe 4. I'll say maybe 4. TN says, I think the Rays might be pretty bad next year. They won't have Franco, and they really weren't that good to the end of last year. I think they could get him at the deadline. We'll see, but it doesn't take much to get into the wild card. That's kind of my point there. Hep C, it's hard to dictate who profiles one of the playoffs. It's just random. Man, there's so much randomness to the playoff. That is 100% correct. There have been unlikely October heroes, no doubt. That's usually who wins it, are your unlikely guys. It's usually the role players that, your dudes are your dudes. They usually cancel each other out, but it's usually your role players that are the difference. Hey, we have a super chat. Jay, thank you so much for joining, Jay. You talk about an awesome baseball dude. Jay is just incredible. Read some of his comments, man. Every time I learn as much probably from Jay as he does from this show. It is just awesome. Thoughts on Young Sik Yang? Matter of fact, have an article on Dodgers Daily written by Mike. Mike, if you're listening, would you link that article to Young Sik Yang? Mike actually wrote an article on him. Know all about him. Would have been number 1 in KBO draft year, but wanted to go major leagues. Yeah, very good player. Mike, if you would you be the one that would comment on that? Mike, I could comment on that, but I'm not nearly as versed as Mike is. So I'm going to let Mike leave a written comment. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give me just a second here. And 1 second here. If I can open up what I need to open up here, right here. Here is the article right there. I am going to link that right there, Jay, and I am going to let you have at Young Sik Yang right there. Mike wrote that article, and that's going to give you everything you need to know about him. As far as he goes, yeah, high school prodigy. Okay, would have been the number 1 pick in the KBO, but chose to become a major leaguer. Okay, the big league hitter he's going to face in the future he liked was Shohei Ohtani. Okay, South Korean, just a great prospect. 97 mile-an-hour fastball, okay, at a young age, which is why he's a big-time pitcher. Curveball, changeup, slider, sweeper. So he has the full mix and the big-time fastball. And so, yeah, he has a lot of projectables to him and the type of pitch mix that the Dodgers like with the big fastball. He projects to be over 100 miles an hour as he matures and gets a little bit older. Okay, so Denard says, hey, Casey, what do you think? Move Betts back to right field, move Muncy back to second, put Bush at second, Vargas in left. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I don't think the Dodgers fans or the Dodgers organization would be patient enough with that. I think every time there was a bad game, they would lose their minds. Hey, we'd have another super chat right here. So from that perspective, I would rather move Michael Bush and Miguel Vargas to another organization and let them play their natural positions. Not to mention asking Michael Bush to play another position, moving Miguel Vargas again is very difficult to do. I would rather move Michael Bush and Miguel Vargas in a trade than do that and then go get a outfielder or a second baseman like Whit Merrifield. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for your super chat. Awesome deal. We should give either Pages or Ramos a shot at left field. They both have power and a strong arm. Trade for Luzardo and sign Hader. Great idea. Here's the problem, though. Andy Pages, shoulder injury. Not a lot of information coming out from the organization, and I can tell you, I do usually have information like that I just simply can't. And if there's some players and players' parents and grandparents in the audience, which there almost is every show, they'll attest to this. I have information like that on just about every one of these situations that I don't ever go public with because I would rather have the trust of the players, and it's none of my business, to be honest with you. And I don't ever go with it. I'm not a news guy. I'm a take guy, right? Okay. I only say that to say I got nothing on Andy Pages. I can honestly say I have nothing on Andy Pages. That worries me because if there's nothing on Andy Pages, it makes me wonder how healthy he is, right? Usually when you hear silence, that's why. That's my experience. I don't know that. I'm speculating because I don't have any information. So my problem with, I'm not saying that Andy Pages shouldn't be the left or right fielder. You can't commit to him right now. I can't say you commit to him right now because I don't know what the health is going to be like. Jose Ramos is not on the 40-man, so to put him on the 40-man, then again, you would now have 41 men on your roster. You would have to DFA somebody else or trade. And I'll say this about Jose Ramos. He needs to reduce his swing and miss, okay? Jose Ramos' strikeout rate is over 30%, and unlike James Outman, he doesn't steal almost 20 bases. He steals around 7 bases. So I think Jose Ramos to be the major league player that we want him to be. I don't mean this to be critical or to throw shade. I think that he needs to become more dynamic in stealing bases and then be a better bat-to-ball skill type of guy. So he would be another boomer bust guy, and then not only would he be boomer bust, he's also going to be a guy that doesn't steal bases. So he's not going to bring that element to it either. So from that perspective, that would be my counter to that. Okay, Hep C says going to have to wait another year for the Rays to seriously consider moving Randy. Yeah, I would agree with that. Hey, Paul, good evening, Paul. Thank you so much for joining. I think Ohtani and Yamamoto was at the 49ers-Rams game in Santa Clara today. Won both are good luck charms, no doubt about it. If we sign Teoscar, Paul says, we will need to trade a few players to put him on the 40-man. Yeah, at least one, or you could DFA somebody. Hey, Doom says, thank you for the super chat, right field. No doubt about that. Okay, Hep C says, I'm still upset about Will Smith's pitch calling in 2021, Game 6 of the NLCS. He called like 3 or 4 straight cutters to Eddie Rosario when they were up in the count, and he was fouling him off like crazy. Yep, I think if you were to criticize anything about him, that would be it. Matter of fact, that's why they had to put Austin Barnes in there in 2020, was because I think Austin Barnes called the better game, and he settled the pitching down a little bit better than Will Smith did at that time. Paul says, I think Tampa will move Randy at the trade deadline if they're doing bad. Yeah, but I don't think they're going to do as bad as people think. And again, how bad do you have to be doing to not be in position to make the wild card? That's pretty, you have to be doing pretty bad. Okay, so the bullpen, Mike Lopez, thank you for joining. Again, leave a like, leave a comment, and make sure if you're not a subscriber to hit that subscribe button. 2024 bullpen, says Mike, equals Fireisen, right-handed, Vesia, left-handed, Hurt, right-handed, Ferguson, left-handed, Kelly, right-handed, Gratterall, Phillips, right-handed, and Hader, yeah, left-handed. Trinan, right-handed, should be ready and fully healthy, yeah. If Trinan is healthy and pitches well, this bullpen goes way to a different level because that dude is nasty. By the way, congratulations to his South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Did you know that Blake Trinan went to South Dakota State in college? The South Dakota State Jackrabbits, they defeated Montana today for the Division I FCS championship. It was in Frisco. I watched every single playoff game. I love that level of football. So congratulations to them. They won 23-3 today. You're really okay with a one-sided platoon guy? Well, remember Peralta, Napas, or Hernandez, period. Yeah, I'm not sure who Grizz is communicating back and forth with on that. Michael Nielsen, thank you, Michael, so much for joining. I'm really surprised we haven't seen more prospects traded this offseason. If they signed Teoscar, they most surely would have something lined up to move Bush or Vargas. I hope so. And I think a lot of people are on the bandwagon that they're waiting for the trade deadline to dump these prospects. I hope they don't. I hope it's sooner rather than later to get the guy that they want. Paul says he thinks Mark Pryor is the best pitching coach in the game. Hep C, Hernandez is like 5 times the player Peralta was. I agree with that. Tio is an everyday player, not a platoon. Yeah, I think platoon is too strong of a word, but I think everyday probably is too strong of a word too, in the sense that I think the Dodgers will have the ability to sit him out in certain games that they don't think are good matchups for him. I think that would happen. Okay, Denard, if Teoscar struck out over 200 times last year versus mediocre pitching, imagine versus elite pitching in the playoffs. I wouldn't disagree with that. My counter to that is, Denard, is that they're going to be able to put him in better matchups that are better suited for him to have success, and he's going to have better hitters around him. So I think from that perspective, I think you can make up a lot of ground for him, with him. I think that would probably be my counter to you. I totally understand what you're saying. Again, the first thing I said about Teoscar, this is not a black and white deal. This is a gray area deal. There's going to be some people that like it, like hepatitis C later, and then there's going to be other people like you that don't. And then there's going to be some people in the middle that are, okay, whatever. It's going to create a lot of debate. And so when you make that comment, he struck out over 200, he strikes out way too much, and that sucks for a playoff type setting. I can't disagree with you at all. I don't have anything other than to say I think the Dodgers can try to alleviate a lot of that by the matchups they put him in and by putting better hitters around him. Okay, we're talking about a guy whose splits suck. Platooning has been vets and tires. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Sign Hader for $100 million for 4 years. Yeah, I know Tim Rogers. He's wanting Hader. I'm not as big on that. I think the Dodgers have what they need in the bullpen, especially I think you need to wait and see what Blake Trinan is. If Blake Trinan comes back and is the Blake Trinan we want him to be, I think you're okay. You don't have to go get a Josh Hader. Okay, Cole says they lose Walker Buehler after this year. I know Mike thinks that the Dodgers will not sign. A lot of people don't think they're going to re-sign Walker Buehler, and they're going to get Sasaki instead. So I think you very well could be correct there. Okay, if Tio's down year was 26 home runs, then sign me up. Yep, the obviously the pro there is the home runs, no doubt about it. All right. So Hep C's, they're having a conversation back and forth between like Tio and Peralta. It wasn't cooked until August, right? Left one side, platoon plus that. Yeah. Okay. So Danielle, Dodger fan living in Seattle, so have seen Tio a lot. Fans will love him. That's the first thing I said about him, Danielle. The best thing about Tio, as much as he hits home runs, the clubhouse guy and the way that he jokes around the clubhouse and the dugout. He's going to keep things loose. He's going to keep things he's going to keep everybody in the dugout loose. He's going to crack jokes, and his teammates and all the fans are going to love his personality. No doubt about it. Okay, so yeah, I agree with you, Hep, about the platoon, but I think it's going to be a little less than an everyday, just like Mookie Betts, you're playing 160 games or whatever. Just reserve a spot for Vesia in OKC. He's been sitting down the past few seasons. Yeah, trade him at some point. I wouldn't disagree with that. Does Bauer have closer stuff? Bauer is not going to be a Dodger. Doc. I just don't think there's any way that will ever happen. Even if he comes back to the major leagues, I get all I get all where you're coming from, but he's just not going to be a Dodger again. Yeah, no doubt. Mike says, thank you for the super chat, 100%. Hey, Dodgers 818, thank you so much for joining. Do you think Trevor Bauer will get a second chance? Yes. Not with the Dodgers, though. Okay? He's going to get, I think, a second chance in the major leagues. And, hey, again, I think the major leagues are, like Tim Rogers said, show me. Words don't mean anything. I don't think it's going to be immediate, but I think if he does show the major leagues that he has actually changed his life, he will get a second chance in the major leagues. Not at all with the Dodgers, though. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. There's a standard there that the Dodgers it won't happen. Grizz Monster says, Hep better relook at his splits. Good against lefties, just below average. Okay, yeah. They're having a back and forth there. Okay, Denard. Yeah, we've already gone over that one. Dodgers believe in second chances. They pick up injured players. Yep, no doubt about that. Chris Taylor kind of was one of those deals. So was Max Muncy. Roberto Munoz, love your show. I like because your content is different from others. Well, I thank you for that, Roberto. And, it's prospect based, it's a lot of prospect lean to it. And I know a lot of people think I'm a little bit too positive towards the prospects. That's fine. Again, if that's the worst comment you can make about me, that's wonderful for me because I love these guys. I believe in them. And here's what I believe mostly about these prospects. If the Dodgers keep you around past Double-A, like we saw you see guys, okay, Guillermo Zuniga, okay, 100-plus fastball, was allowed to become a free agent after his Double-A season. Just look at the transactions the Dodgers make. The guys that the Dodgers believe are major leaguers are the ones that make it past their Double-A program, right? Okay, so if you make it to pretty much, if you make it to the AAA level through the Dodger system, the Dodgers believe you're a major league caliber player. I know Mark Washington did that and he became a free agent, but by and large, you're going to get cut by about the Double-A. You're going to get cut at Double-A or traded. So if you make it past that, you're a major league caliber player. That's why one of the reasons why I have the opinions I have of these guys is that they are major league players. They just need an opportunity, right? So I appreciate you seeing the different slants that I have, and I appreciate your wonderful comments, Roberto, and hope you keep coming back every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure and hit that like button, leave a comment, and if you're not a subscriber, become a subscriber and tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily. Okay, would you trade for Taylor Ward? I'm going to plead ignorance on that. I am Hero. I honestly don't know enough about Taylor Ward to give you an opinion on that. I'll tell you what I'll do, though. We come back on Wednesday. I will put all my research into that. I will reach out to all the people that would know, all the scouts that I know, which I know quite a few scouts that I get to sit with them in the Tulsa and Oklahoma City games. I will message them. I will tell you what they think about Taylor Ward, and I will get back to that on a different chat. Philip Regal, thank you so much for joining. Philip, make sure and hit that like button, leave a comment, and if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. You have a smart view. I don't agree with everything you say, but your thoughts are smart and well thought out. Hey, nobody's ever going to agree with everybody. As a head coach, I can tell you this. I wanted people around me that didn't agree with me and that felt comfortable enough. So my rule of thumb, the first thing I always told the guys that I worked with, I don't ever call them my assistants. I don't ever say guys that worked for me. I always say the guys that worked with me. Guys don't work for me, they work with me. I always told them, don't ever make the mistake. The one mistake that you mean that don't ever make the mistake that you go home and go, man, I wish I would have told him that. Because speak up. It's for the kids, it's for the players, it's for the organization's best interest. If you think there's something that we're not doing properly, that I'm not doing properly, that could help a kid, that could help this team, that could help this organization, it is your duty to tell me. And it is my duty to be a big enough man to accept the fact that I'm not doing something I need to be doing that could help somebody. I say that all to say, hey, we're never going to agree on all this. We're passionate Dodgers fans. I love the fact that we all have different opinions and that we are able to come on here and give our opinions in such an awesome way that this lobby that we've seen tonight has done. This is just simply fantastic. El Rojas, what would a realistic contract look like for Bellinger? Very expensive. I'm going to plead the fifth on that one too. Austin would know better on that, Rojas. We will cover that it's going to be very expensive. I think he's going to want multiple years, and it's not going to be anything on Dodgers. I will say this. We'll get some numbers on that Wednesday. I'll make this statement about that right now. It's not going to be something the Dodgers will even consider. That's what I'll say about that. Okay. Paul says, I think the Dodgers will sign Thor Hernandez, Bieber, and Clase in a trade. I think he's talking about Teo Hernandez, Bieber, and Clase in a trade. Boy, how about that? How about Teo, Bieber, and Clase? Wow. Wouldn't that be amazing? And then call it an off season and get Randy Rosarina at the trade deadline. Wow. Imagine getting Teo, Bieber, Clase, and then Randy at the trade deadline. That would be pretty incredible. Grizz, hey, good evening, Grizz. Thank you so much for joining. Exactly, not quite little league average. You can't tell me you can find an outfitter with a minimum league average against righties, above average against lefties. Okay. Paul, would love to have Kike back. Yeah, hard to have Kike and Chris Taylor on the roster at the same time. I thought Muncy was talking about Machado. Definitely Machado. I think he's 100% one of those guys. I do think there are a handful of other guys he was talking about that I think we could all kind of read between the lines. I don't want to give names. You know, I'm too close to these players. I communicate with them too much. I can't give names that I think that he's talking about. It just doesn't. I think we can all read between the lines. So Mike Lopez Ohtani should be considered to be our future closer. I don't hate that, with Evan Phillips and Josh Hader sharing the 8th inning depending on the lineup. Yep. I love outside the box type stuff. Mike Boyer. Yeah, Hep C definitely is for Teo, no doubt. Making a great case for why Teo would be so awesome. Mike Boyer, Dave runs pitchers. The best Dodgers managers were pitchers. Kershaw would make a great manager. Yeah, I think the next manager is either going to be Austin Barnes or Justin Turner. I think that'd be great. Catman is awesome when healthy. Trade May when healthy. Dave's already run Bueller. May. Yeah, so Mike, I said this earlier, here's the great thing for guys like you that don't like Dave. I get it. We're the Dodgers. Damn it, we need to win World Series. Shouldn't have traded Tyler Anderson. They do crap all the time to where I'm not going to lie. I'm just going, what in the hell are we doing? What the hell? I do know this too, though, and I'm not necessarily all for the advanced analytics, and I'm also not old school. I'm kind of that age where I'm both. I think they work. I think you can use advanced analytics to there's so many of them that I think you can use advanced analytics to create whatever narrative you want. If you want to like a guy, I think you can use advanced analytics to like a guy. I think if you don't like a guy, I think you can also use advanced analytics not to like a guy. Okay, so here's what I'm saying. All right, there's been situations to where I just what in the hell, and then it worked, and I was like, well, damn, man, I guess these advanced analytics sometimes do work. So there's been a lot of situations like that. So I totally get it when people, and also, by the way, you're the manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't feel sorry for you for taking criticism. You chose to be in that spotlight. This is the job that you're a grown man. You chose to be in this spotlight. You know this is the part of it that comes with it when you don't win World Series. It is what it is. So I have no problems with it. I have no problems with it. And I have no problems with people that get frustrated with him. Having said that, like I said earlier, I think the advantage spot that you're in right now is that Dave Roberts has 2 years to win a World Series or he's out. So you, as a fan that's not high on Dave Roberts, are in the best spot possible. This is finally coming to a conclusion for you because either this organization is going to win a World Series, which is what you want, or Dave Roberts is no longer going to be the manager. I think you're in that situation. Okay? Yeah, I agree with you, Hep, that Teoscar would be in a better lineup around him and in better advantageous positions. Okay? Yeah, I agree, Paul. Some Dodgers fans need to get over Bauer. He's not coming back. Even if you think he should, he's not. It's something that Dodgers fans just need to move on from. Yeah, no doubt about it. Doc says just doesn't feel right considering the accusations. Trevor, thank you so much for joining. Trevor, we should go in with who we have. Let the kids play, make the trades at the deadline. Yep. Again, the problem with that is the wild card, the trade deadline's kind of tough. Hepsi says 17 per year for 4 years isn't a big contract. Yep. I think that's pretty much what you're looking at. Yeah, and that's not a huge contract. And again, he's at 31, so 35 is not bad. Now, from 31 to 35 is not a peak usually for a player, but still, if you can get, just say 22, 23 home runs for Teoscar, that's pretty good. Okay, Mike says, thank you for the super chat, Jay. No doubt about that. Jay, hoping to get content on Yang this spring training. Content if pitches at Rancho this year. Yep. Paul Teo will shine in L.A. Mike, don't forget Ohtani stole 20 bases. Oh, I did forget that. Absolutely, I did forget that. Thank you for reminding us of that, Mike. No doubt about that. Okay, Jay, I'd like to see him in Rancho. Yeah, no doubt about it. He's talking about the young Yang prospect. Paul, I would not be surprised if Ohtani recurring Teo and Yamamoto to L.A. Zello, who would be the replacement manager? I think it's going – now, if it was this year, I think it would be like Bob Guerin or somebody. And I would love to see him stay in – they got Daniel Nava. You got Scott Hennessy, Travis Barbary, who's been with the Dodgers for over 30 years. I think they would be all great candidates. So I think right now you would stay in-house with one of those guys. But in 3 or 4 years, let's say that Austin Barnes retires. I think Austin Barnes or Justin Turner is your next manager. And I think they would knock it out of the park. Doc, maybe, but if Robert's fault for the team getting kicked out of the first round of the playoffs the past 2 years, I made that real clear. I don't think it was Doc's fault. But also, having said that, if you think that this club just needs a change of voice, I can understand that too. Although it's not his fault, sometimes there is a situation that even though it's not your fault, there is a change of voice that's needed. I can understand people feeling that way. Anyone hating Dave Roberts? Okay. Yeah, he isn't the greatest manager. Yeah, let's make sure and be respectful when we talk to each other. Again, I love the fact that everybody has different opinions. Yeah, but good conversation about, quality content and that kind of stuff is the way that it needs to happen at Dodgers Daily. Okay, last year I agree it wasn't Robert's fault. Totally agree with you, Hep. If you're new to live, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Yes, thank you, Mike. Paul Ohtani and Yamamoto will recruit Teo to L.A. Agree with that. Doc says Kershaw has to come back. I totally agree. Okay, if Barnes stays, Kershaw will be back. Yep, Michael. Gary Sanchez, yeah. Dodgers fans for life, thank you so much for joining. If the Dodgers are pursuing another starter, it may hint that Kershaw era is over. Maybe. We'll see. But I still think there's different roles that they can put Kershaw in. And keep in mind that nobody knows when he's actually going to be healthy. Okay. Philip, thank you so much for commenting. Kershaw will end his career this year with the Dodgers, no doubt. Logan K., people love to look at numbers, but everyone's favorite teammate last year was Hayward and Barnes. Yep. Hayward actually had a very good year. He had an outs above average of +6, which was at the top of the league for right fielders. So Hayward actually had, and then he also had the home runs, and he had a decent average. Jason Hayward actually had a very, very, very good year. Bring Cartaya up and give him those innings over Barnes. It would be Hunter Fiducia, not Diego Cartaya at this point. He would be the backup that you would bring up. Thank you so much for commenting, Matthew. Wonderful that you're joining him. Random, I don't care if they bring back Kershaw to be the team mascot. Just keep that man a Dodger blue. There's a lot of Dodgers that feel that way. Michael Padilla, thank you so much for joining. Not only is Barnes bad at the plate, he has a weak arm, and lots of teams run all over him. I can't argue with any of that. But again, my counter to that is, what other backup catchers in the league? Don't compare him to starting catchers. Don't compare him to Will Smith. Compare him to the other backup catchers. What other backup catcher in the league is so much better than Austin Barnes that you would want to DFA Austin Barnes to bring that guy in instead of Barnes? Backup catchers. Compare him to backup. That would be my question. Okay, Denard K. Casey, do you think Lourdes Gurriel Jr. signed for undervalue back with Arizona because the Dodgers were distracted trying to sign both Ohtani and Yamamoto? I've said that 100 times. Spot on, Denard. 100%. I think the Dodgers wanted those dominoes to fall. I think the Diamondbacks knew that, and they swooped in literally the night before and signed Gurriel the night before Yamamoto signed. I'm not huge on conspiracy theories, but I don't think that was a coincidence. I think you were spot on there, Denard. Casey, blink twice if you think Muncy was talking about Cody. That's funny, Random. That is a good sense of humor right there, brother. That's awesome. Okay, Hep C, Bauer, Julio, Cody. Yep, you could put the names together. Dodgers fans for life. What about a Will Smith extension? He's only got 2 years of sign Will Smith as soon as you can, man. He needs to be 100%. Verdugo, got to see Verdugo in Oklahoma City a lot. Don't bring him back. That's all I'm going to say about that. Muncy was talking about Machado and Scherzer. Yeah, I would. Yeah, probably. Mike Taylor, doesn't matter if they win. Dave needs to go. Yeah, it'd be interesting if they did win a World Series or two in the next 2 years. I think they would keep him at that point, though. 2018, when Machado was in L.A., it was so cool. Okay, Bob Student 10, thank you so much for joining. All the Dodgers blogs like the team. It's very articulate and well thought out. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Bob. I love those comments. This has been a wonderful chat tonight. We're coming to the end, and so I think we're going to take a couple of more comments here, and then we're going to get out of here. Michael Nielsen, wonder if there is a trade coming tonight to make a spot for Hernandez. Yes, there has. If you sign Teoscar, there has to be a corresponding move to that, no doubt about that. So, okay, one more comment. Hey, Casey, breaking report. Dodgers signed Teoscar Hernandez, 1 year, $23.5 million. I just read that comment. Let me actually pull that up and make sure that actually is the case here. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to look up. Oh, shoot. I just missed the message from Austin that he is available now. Dang, I would have gotten him on. We would have done that, but I didn't even. I was so busy reading comments, I didn't actually get to my messages. Okay, breaking. Outfielder Teoscar Hernandez, Los Angeles Dodgers, 1 year, $23.5 million. How about that? That's even better. I really thought Hernandez was going to go for the longer So here's what he's trying to do. He's trying to have a good year with the Dodgers, then sign the 3-year contract next year to get to his 4 years. So it's done. 1 year, Teoscar Hernandez. Yep, there you go. The Dodgers got their outfielder. There has to be a corresponding move. How about that? So it either has to be a DFA or a trade. Stay tuned. So that is absolutely the hottest late news, and we are going to leave you with that. It's been a wonderful chat. Hey, keep leaving your chats. I will answer them as we go. It will also give me some ideas as far as questions I need to answer on the next show. So, hey, it's been a wonderful crowd tonight. Thank you so much for everybody. I hope I did an okay job for you. Austin, I wish I'd have seen Twitter before. I could have got him on a little bit early. Austin's just a rock star in this show. And so, hey, thank you to him. Thank you to Mike for moderating. Thank you for all of you. Don't forget, one last time, leave a like, leave a comment. If you're not a subscriber, make sure and subscribe and tell all of your friends about Dodgers Daily. So until next time, which we're going to have a hot take tomorrow, and I've got a bunch of interviews coming up. Those are coming out as well. Our next live show is on Wednesday. I would like to thank you for tuning in and say, go Dodgers.